Welcome to the Northwest Sports Fanatics YouTube channel. I am your host, Orion. Got a great show for you here today with the Kansas City Royals versus the Seattle Mariners. First pitch is going to be here in just about 5 minutes, so let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get into the starting lineups. Happy Sunday, everyone. On the left, one of the best shortstops in the game, Bobby Witt Jr., and on the right, second base stud, Cole Clutch Young. Now let's get into the starting lineups here first for the visiting Kansas City Royals. Leading off for the Royals at third base, Michael Garcia. Batting second, playing shortstop for Kansas City, Bobby Witt Jr. Batting third for the Royals, playing first base, Vinny Pasquantino. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, DHing for Kansas City, Salvador Perez. Batting fifth, catching today for KC, Carter Jensen. Batting sixth, playing right field, Jack Caglione. Batting seventh, playing left field, Isaac Collins. Batting eighth, playing second base, Michael Massey. And batting ninth, playing center field for the Royals, Kyle Isbell. And on the mound for the Royals with a 2-1 record, an ERA of 3.74, it is Chris Bubic. And now let's get into the starting lineups for your Seattle Mariners. Leading off for the Mariners at DH, Rob Refsnyder. Batting second, playing center field, Julio Rodriguez. Let's go, J-Rod. Batting third, playing first base, it's Nails, Josh Naylor. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, left fielder, Randy Arozarena. Batting fifth, playing shortstop for Seattle, J.P. Crawford. Batting sixth, playing second base, Cole Clutch Young. Batting seventh, playing right field, Connor Joe. Batting eighth, getting the call up from the AAA affiliate, the Tacoma Rainiers, catching for the first time in a Seattle uniform, Johnny Pereda. And batting ninth, playing third base, Leo Rivas. And on the mound for the Mariners with an 0-2 record, ERA of 6.35, Luis Castillo. And now we need La Piedra not to be pitching like he has been. We need to have a good performance here today. Magic number, 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits, and hopefully Castillo gives up 3 runs or less. And again, we're just trying to avoid the sweep. And, you know, everything kind of went wrong after Emerson Hancock ended up having a MLB high 14K game. No one in Major League Baseball had more Ks than Emerson Hancock did last night. But unfortunately, errors by Julio Rodriguez, a meltdown by Andres Munoz, as well as Randy Arozarena. And again, you know, you can't get caught in between the base paths, not knowing, you know, if it's ball 3 or ball 4, and that Cole Young, you know, at bat, that definitely stung and that hurt. And then obviously we know Julio typically is great at defense, but late in the game ended up making a blunder and had that ball go all the way back to the wall. And we obviously know Andres Munoz has not been good this year. Matt Brash still out for a few weeks, and I do have an injury update on Cal Raleigh. We're wondering where the heck is Cal? Now Cal obviously has missed a few games now with right side soreness. He's day-to-day. Hopefully he'll be back sooner than later. We definitely miss him, not only in the dugout, but obviously behind the plate and with the offense that we can get. Let's prayers up for Cal. He's not on the IL, just general soreness, but hopefully he'll end up being back because we're definitely going to need him. Tridents up. Let's go M's. And again, I had a fantastic birthday last night. Obviously, we wanted to cap it off with a, Mariners W. But again, things are very difficult, here in 2026. And with that being said, we're only a couple games, from first place, a couple games back. And again, not a lot of teams in the American League are good this year. You got the Yankees and you got the Rays, and then a bunch of teams like the Mariners that are struggling. So even though it looks bad, with a 16-18 record, if you actually compare our record to a lot of the other teams in the American League, we're really not that far behind. Yeah, it's been tough for us, but it's been tough for a lot of teams, in the American League. So again, hopefully Castillo doesn't give up 5 to 10 runs. He actually gives up, 3 or less, preferably 0 to 2. The bats come alive with Cole Young and company. And again, if we can get to 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits, and Castillo can actually pitch, somewhat decent, we should have a chance to prevent the sweep. And we're going to need this. This is a must-win game because we play the Atlanta Braves next, and they're one of the best teams in baseball with the Dodgers and the Padres and a few others. So again, if we're going to get swept here by the Royals, we can't take back-to-back sweeps, by the Royals and the Braves. We want to make sure that, we find a way to get the job done. And we're rocking the Steelhead uniforms, and I think we play pretty well. I don't have a whole lot of photos of everyone in the Steelhead uniform. We got this nice one of Rob Refsnyder. I got one of J.P. Crawford, and then I got one of Leo Rivas, but there really isn't any others that I can display at the moment. But again, hopefully they'll have a few more photos being taken, and again, hopefully we can get the job done. Robert in the building, what's good? Marine Bean in the building, what's good? Daniel in the building, what's good? Jerry in the building, what's good? Let's go. And we're going against, obviously a lefty, so that's why we have the righty pitcher in the lineup. So, and again, even though, the lineup isn't the greatest, it's not like Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone have really been that great lately, when we have a righty pitcher. So first pitch there from Castillo to Garcia, fouls it off. Joe runs into the wall. Can't end up making the play. Good effort there by Connor Joe, but we want to make sure he doesn't bust up his knees there going into the padding. Good effort there by Connor Joe in right field, but it ends up being foul. 0-1 count, sinker 95 miles an hour there from Luis Castillo. Sean in the building, what's good? And even though we weren't able to get the win, we had some great support last night. We had over 300 on the Dono train, 335. Had a lot of people wish me a happy birthday. And again, it was one of the best birthdays I've had in a while, even with the Mariners losing last night in a heartbreaker. 0-1 pitch. And that one is fouled off there by Michael Garcia. No balls and 2 strikes from Castillo to Garcia. 0-2 pitch, high and inside. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Castillo to Garcia. And again, we usually play pretty well with the Steelhead uniforms here today. And again, hopefully we can find a way with Luis Castillo on the mound and Michael Garcia here in the box. Little slow dribbler right to Cole Young, throw to Naylor, and that is 1 away. And that's why we love Cole Clutch Young. He can do it on defense, and we know that he can do it on offense as well. We love Cole Young. Down goes Michael Garcia with the slow dribbler to Cole Young, and that is 1 away. Next up in the 2-hole, it is shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. On deck, Vinny Pasquantino. And again, we're going to need Castillo to pitch one of his best games of the year, and I'm optimistic. He's been terrible this year. There's no doubt about that. The worst pitcher, out of the 5. But, I think hopefully, he'll end up giving up 3 or less, preferably 0 to 2. And if the bats come alive, and they typically do on Sundays, I think we're going to have a chance to prevent the sweep. First pitch, takes a strike looking high and away, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, fouls that one behind the plate to the T-Mobile Bricks. 4-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour. No balls and 2 strikes to Bobby Witt Jr. Still got plenty of time, and again, it definitely hasn't gone the way that we wanted. 0-2 pitch, big swing and a miss, and a nice punch out there on Bobby Witt Jr. We'll take that. Trident's up. Next up is Vinny Pasquantino. And again, if we can get a few double plays to help Castillo out, and he gets a lot of pop-ups and ground-outs. I don't expect him to get anywhere near what Hancock did yesterday with a 14K game, as that is a line drive and foul out of play, which is the highest out of any pitcher in MLB, and we still couldn't get the win. 14 Ks. Shout out to Emerson Hancock and his development of getting so much better from last year to this year. But again, Castillo is a guy that typically gives up 5 to 10 runs a game, and again, we just have to hope that he's clean today, and honestly, I think he has a good chance of doing it. I know that kind of sounds crazy, but at some point, he's got to have a decent game, and the bats need to come alive. Why not today? I mean, we already lost the first 2 games in the series. We got the Atlanta Braves next. We can't afford to lose, 3 in a row to the Royals and 3 in a row to the Braves, right? 0-1 pitch. Big swing and a miss, low and away. No balls and 2 strikes to Vinny Pasquantino. 0-2 pitch. Ball there, low and away with the changeup, 89 miles an hour. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Vinny Pasquantino. Hawks in the building, what's good? 1-2 pitch. High and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes after that changeup misses, high and away. Nobody on with 2 outs. And again, being a fan of any team in the Pacific Northwest, let alone the Mariners, it's definitely going to be, mentally tough. You have to be strong to be a fan of this team. It's not for the weak. 2-2 pitch, foul back to the T-Mobile bricks. 4-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Vinny Pasquantino. I do like these steelhead uniforms. We have a heat wave here in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to have 90 degrees here today, and I got 2 walks in already, waking up early at 7 a.m. for the first and 9:30 for my second walk with the pup. And hopefully later tonight we can have a victory walk. 2-2 pitch, big swing and a miss. And this is one of the better starts we've seen out of Luis Castillo. Again, I was optimistic coming in and, looking pretty good here with Johnny Pereda, behind the plate. Nice job there by Luis Castillo. I mean, when's the last time Castillo, had 2 Ks in the first inning? I mean, normally, he's giving up 2 runs or more in the first inning. So nice job by Luis Castillo. And we haven't really been able to say that often. Castillo bringing the electricity early, but nice job, Luis. And we're going to need that good version of you if we have any chance today preventing the sweep. Nice job. Next up for the Mariners, DHing, leading off, Rob Refsnyder. Let's go, Rob. Try to ends up. You never know what could happen. Batting second, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Let's go, J-Rod. We need you, baby. And batting third, first baseman, it's Nails, Josh Naylor. And on the mound for the Royals with a 2-1 record, ERA of 3.74, Chris Bubic. And hopefully Bubic ends up having a mini meltdown at some point in the game. And again, 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits. Castillo gives up 3 or less. We should have a chance at some point here late. Appreciate that, Chris. We haven't been able to bust out the trident that much, Castillo, this season. But again, going to have to. And again, if you are just tuning into the broadcast, Cal Raleigh, obviously we've missed the home runs, right? We've missed him in the dugout and just his overall presence behind the plate. And he's got soreness on his right side. And again, he's day-to-day. He's not on the injured list, at least yet. So that's a good sign. And hopefully he'll be back, for that Braves series. And if he's not back by then, hopefully by the White Sox series when we go on the road. And again, the White Sox are no longer, one of those bottom feeders, like in years past. That's not going to be easy. First pitch to Refsnyder, pops it up. And Pasquantino in foul territory ends up getting the first out, 1 away. And we got to make sure we're not catering, to Bubic. We need to make sure we're working the count. And I know Rob loves to be able to swing at that first pitch, and he might be the only guy we give the green light to do that. But again, if we can work the count, that's definitely going to help us out, especially when we struggle against lefties. Next up in the 2-hole, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. First pitch from Bubic to Julio. Strike right down the middle, 0-1 count. $35 subs away from 24,000. We should be able to make some ground on that here today as well. Pitch fouled off by Julio. Gained another sub. 34 subs to go to 24,000. Four-seam fastball, 94 miles an hour there by Bubic. Fouled off by Julio. 0-2 pitch. Julio, hard hit ball into right field and foul. No balls and 2 strikes to Julio Rodriguez. And I like these steelhead uniforms. You know, they had like, different variations where one had steelheads that we wore in the past, but the ones that just say Seattle in the front look a lot cleaner. 0-2 pitch. Julio pops it up into right field and out of play. Nice souvenir about 20 rows back. And when I end up going to see the Mariners and the Blue Jays, on the 4th of July, we'll be sitting around that same area. And hopefully we'll end up getting a ball for my best friend. No balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and 1 out. Bottom of the first inning, 0-0 here early between the Royals and the Mariners. We've had 2 heartbreaking losses. And again, just getting back to the fundamentals. Too many mental errors and too many meltdowns, by individuals that we can't have that happen. 0-2 pitch, and down goes Julio. Big swing and a miss, and that is 2 away. But we kind of are used to having Mooney, have meltdowns, but we definitely don't expect Julio to miss a ball in the outfield and have it go past him, and have Randy think it's ball 4 when it's ball 3 and get caught in between the bags when we have bases loaded and have a chance to be able to get some runs, So definitely Randy, Julio, and Mooney lost it for us yesterday, and we can't have that. Again, it's like we already have so much pressure, based on what happened last season going into this season, and we have to get back to the basics. Next up is Josh Naylor. First pitch from Bubic to Naylor is a ball, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, high and inside. 2 balls and no strikes from Bubic to Naylor. First pitch was a slider, 86 miles an hour, low and away. Second pitch, high and inside from Bubic to Naylor. 2-0 pitch, and a little dribbler towards first. Should be a routine play here. Toe tap on the bag, and that is out number 3. End of the first inning, 0-0, Royals and Mariners. Mike in the building, what's good? I don't think last season took a toll on the players. I think that this team is a little bit different, with the certain individuals, no longer on the team. Obviously we only had Gino, at the deadline, and having Polo, he was red hot, 350, 450 batting average at the beginning of the season. But if we're really being honest, Brandon Donovan matched the numbers that Polo did at the beginning of the year, but then now he's gotten hurt. But it also shows you how important Brandon Donovan is to this team. He's just as important as, Julio or Cal or anybody else, Cole Young on this team, offense and defense. And we really haven't been the same since he got hurt. He got the hip, and then he had, the flu and the cold, and then, had some other issues, and again with the growing and the hip. And it's like, once we get Brandon Donovan back, I know we're going to end up playing better ball. And again, we just have to be patient. And then, as soon as one guy gets hurt, it seems like another guy gets hurt or another guy makes a mistake. And, anytime you end up, having a losing record and, there's a lot of pressure on, the players and the organization, every mistake gets magnified times 1,000. Mooney and his fucking meltdowns, Julio missing that ball, and Randy being an idiot thinking it's ball 4 when it's ball 3 and costing us a big opportunity. And those are simple things that, can't fucking happen. And again, even though it's been a very tough year, we're still in the mix. A lot of teams in the American League are shitty like us. So again, yeah, the Yankees are doing good, right? The Rays are doing good, but there's a lot of teams that are at 500 or a game or 2 below 500 like us. So yeah, it feels shitty, but it's not like we're the bottom 5 team in the American League. We're actually one of the, top 5, top 6 teams in the American League with a disgusting 16-18 record, believe it or not. So, again, this is tough. The Atlanta Braves series is going to even be harder, but again, at some point, we're going to have to turn it around. And once we get Donnie back, I do believe that is going to be one of the missing pieces that'll help us get back on track. Let's go to the top of the second inning. Next up is Salvador Perez. First pitch in there to Salvador Perez is in there for a strike. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, check swing, high and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Salvador Perez. On deck is Carter Jensen, and batting third in the 6-hole right fielder Jack Caglione. But so far so good out of Castillo in the first inning. Hopefully he'll keep it up. 1-1 pitch, hard hit ball, deep left field, and Randy is there, and that is one away. Good defense there by Randy Rosarena. I mean, it's already, one of those things where we have to worry about ground balls coming to him. The last thing that we need is for him to fall asleep, on the base paths or not know, how many balls or strikes are in the particular count, And again, if you're a professional baseball player, you need to be better. And I get it. Everyone's human. Everyone's makes mistakes, but certain players seem like they're making more mistakes than others. Next up is Carter Jensen. First pitch from Castillo to Jensen in there for a strike. 0-1 count. Big swing and a miss on that 0-1 pitch. And Castillo looking pretty good here so far. La Piedra, no balls and 2 strikes to Carter Jensen. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 4-seam fastball on back-to-back pitches. So far, so good here for Castillo. Sometimes he bites off a little bit more than he can chew, but so far, so good. 0-2 pitch, check swing, and got him. Here we go. That's what I'm talking about, baby. This is exactly what we needed from Luis Castillo. 3 punch-outs already within the first 2 innings. Let's go. Nice job there by Luis Castillo. Jensen strikes out swinging with the check swing. We'll take it. I don't care if it's a full swing or a check swing. We'll take it. And that is 2 away. Next up is Jack Caglione. First pitch, big swing and a miss. And again, this is kind of ironic, when certain things, end up getting better for us, other guys, get worse. And then the guys that are really crappy, like Castillo this season, maybe this will be the, game of the year for him today. So, it's just one of those weird things about the Mariners. And Caglione pops up, shallow center field, Julio battling the sun, and that is out number 3. But I'm impressed so far out of Castillo. But again, we can't have Castillo pitch a gem, and then we end up not getting any hits or runs. Again, hopefully we can get to 5 to 10 runs, somewhere in that mix, but specifically 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits. If we're able to get that, and Castillo can still pitch decent, we should have a chance to compete, you at least would think. All right, let's go to the bottom of the 2nd inning and see who's up next here for the Mariners. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Next up in the 4-hole, left fielder Randy Rosarena. Batting 2nd in the 5-hole, shortstop J.P. Crawford. And batting 6th, second baseman extraordinaire Cole Clutch Young. Now, he's gone 0 for 4 in back-to-back games, and that is usually the max where Cole ends up, having a mini slump, and then he typically, tears it up, in that next game. And hopefully that'll be the case where he goes 2 for 4 or 3 for 5 today. Let's go. 34 subs away from 24,000. Let's get it, baby. Gained another sub since the last commercial break. Appreciate you. 33 subs away from 24,000, which is huge. We're approaching 6 million views on the channel as well. And we're at 30 likes, 70 more to get to 100. And not only, has Brandon Donovan been out and we haven't played good ball since he got injured. I mean, that is a key factor. You got to remember he was like the best hitter, until Luke Raley ended up, getting his batting average up. And now he's been kind of streaky like Dominic Canzone. And then Randy and a few other guys, started to get their batting average up to more of what we like. Julio's at 267, Randy 281, Cole Young 267. But again, not having Donnie, not having Cal, and then also having, Mooney be terrible, no Matt Brash. There's a lot of things that are going on with injuries and players not playing well and making mistakes, and we just got to battle through it. First pitch from Bubic to Rosarena, fouls it off. 0-1 count. 4-seam fastball, 92 miles an hour there by Bubic. But again, I think that if Donnie never got hurt, I think that we would be, at 500 right now, or maybe even up, at one point or another. So. 1-1 pitch, high and away. 2 balls and 1 strike to Arendi Orosarena. First pitch fouled off, high and inside, tried to jam him. Second pitch, low and away with the changeup, 86 miles an hour. And then we get another pitch outside. 2 balls and 1 strike to Arendi Orosarena. 2-1 pitch, hard hit ball, shallow right field, but right to Caglione. And that is 1 away. Next up is J.P. Crawford. Let's go, J.P. And I don't have too many photos of individuals in the Steelheads. I got Ref Snyder, Crawford, and Rivas. And hopefully there'll be a few other photos taken of the others so we can end up having a complete Steelhead photo lineup at some point before the season is over. First pitch into J.P. Crawford in there for a strike, 0-1 count. And we miss Donnie's presence offensively and defensively. JP with a bunt. Here we go. JP, safe. And look at that. When you play small ball, how often are the throws on a bunt wild? The percentage is very, very high, And again, if you lay it down correctly, you have a good chance of being safe here. Everyone runs around with with a chicken with their head cut off, pitchers, shortstop, second baseman, third baseman, as soon as they see that bunt, they just don't know how to handle themselves. And a nice job there by J.P. Crawford playing small ball and getting on with a single with a bunt. I love it. I love small ball, doing the things that we need to do to win. Next up is our guy, Cole Clutch Young. Now he's 0 for 8 in his last 2 games. He's not going to go 0 for 4 today. Bet on that. First pitch to Cole. Crushes that into left field, out of play, 0-1 count. And we're going to need Cole to be a hero today. He's got to be one of those guys that helps us win. And, again, I can't wait for Cal to get back in the lineup, but Donovan has been, more of a presence game in and game out than Cal. Yeah, Cal's got 7 home runs, but he doesn't really come to play every game. It's like every 3rd to 4th game, he ends up having a monster game with a home run. But, what about those other games in between? A lot of 0 for 4, 0 for 5 games with no singles, no doubles. And, again, pretty good, player behind the plate, even though his, throws at second, picking guys off have been wide right this year, but again, there's plenty of time to get better. 0-1 pitch, big, swing and a miss, low and away. 0-2 pitch, high and inside. Good presence and patience there by Cole Young. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Bubic to Young. But again, I really do think, once Donnie comes back, that will really help us out. 1-2 pitch, big, swing and a miss there for Young. Strikes out swinging, and that is 2 away. Come on, Cole, we're going to need you, baby. Can't have you go 0 for 4 3 games in a row. You're too good of a player. Next up in the 7-hole, right fielder, a player that's been playing better as of late, Connor Joe. Ref Snyder, Connor Joe, Mitch Garver, and then we're going to get Johnny Pareda, obviously up next. And, we ended up signing Kisner in the offseason, let him go. And obviously Pareda had some time with the Athletics and the Twins, played a little bit for the Tacoma Rainiers, and hopefully Pareda will do a good job. Obviously in the box, he's doing a great job behind the plate with obviously Castillo. They have good chemistry early. First pitch, high and away. 4-seam fastball, 93 miles an hour there by Bubic, the lefty. 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, high and away. Great eye there by Connor Joe. 2 balls and no strikes from Bubic to Joe. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Got a heat wave here in Oregon, 90 degrees today, which is very uncharacteristic. 2-0 pitch in there for a strike. 2 balls and 1 strike with a runner at first and 2 outs. Bottom of the second inning, 0-0 Royals and Mariners, especially when we've had 60 to 70 degree temperatures lately, and all of a sudden we have a 90 degree day. Pretty wild. 2-1 pitch. Fouls that one off, out of play. 4-seam fastball, 91 miles an hour there by Bubic. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Connor Joe. Yeah, I mean, it is. But again, think about all the things that have gone wrong for us. Mooney has been terrible. Castillo's been terrible. We've had injuries to Cal, Brash, and, Brandon Dalton, some of our best players. Again, starting pitching, even when we get a season high 14K game, and his record was 9, and 14 Ks is the most out of any pitcher in baseball this season, and we still can't win. So it shows you, it's like, we'll still have a few things that go really good for us, but to be able to have starting pitching, the bullpen, the hitting, and the defense all to come together in a game, it's not really easy, and again, a lot of teams are struggling in the American League, not just us, but there's been a reason, in each game while certain things have been going wrong. Mooney has been terrible this season. Castillo has been terrible this season. Injuries to, Cal and obviously, more importantly, Brandon Donovan have not been easy, and, mental mistakes, by Julio and Randy yesterday, unacceptable. Defense overall has been pretty damn good, but, just when one thing gets better, another thing gets worse. 3-2 pitch, hard hit ball, and that goes foul. And remember, we were the worst hitting team in baseball about a month ago prior to the Astros series, batting 188 as a team. Now we're in the 220 to 240 range, so we've improved there. So hitting is much better, but then what happened? The pitching has gotten a little bit worse, from back then. And bullpen is very shaky at times, but other times it's great, besides Munoz. I like Hoppy and I like Bizzardo, but not having Brash is not ideal. And we'll see how it goes, but I still love this team. 3-2 pitch, high and away, and a great job there by Connor Joe forcing the walk and not getting greedy. Nice job. What's good, Dave? Nice job there by Connor Joe, a very patient at bat, which I love. And next up, making his Seattle Mariner debut, getting some time with the Tacoma Rainiers, Johnny Pereda. I already like what I see with the chemistry with Castillo behind the plate. And again, hopefully we can get an unexpected hit here out of Pereda. So, we had Pereda, we had Kisner, we had Garver and Cal. You never know who's going to get injured. And I'm hoping for Pereda to have at least one hit here today. First pitch, Pereda, hard hit ball, shallow center field. And that is out number 3. We leave 2 stranded there. And let's go to the top of the 3rd inning in a pitcher's duel. So far, Castillo with a no-hitter. Crazy. And it's kind of ironic. All of a sudden, we desperately need hits and we need runs, right? And everyone thinking coming into this game, Castillo is going to be terrible. He's going to give up, 5 to 10 runs in the first couple innings and game over. And then all of a sudden, we're having a kind of a hard time hitting, but then Castillo is pitching maybe one of the best games of, the 2026 season for him. So if he's going to end up pitching well, we can't have the hitting disappear like it did yesterday. And obviously in game 1, another heartbreaking loss where, we ended up, doing decent. But again, Brian Wu giving up 6 runs and then Ferrer giving up that run late and us losing 7-6 and 3-2. And nothing is worse, besides getting blown out by 5 to 10 runs when you lose 1-run games when you could have won. And we've had 2 of those in the last 2 days. It's heartbreaking, but, that's our reality. All right, let's go to the top of the 3rd inning and let's see if we can play some good defense here and if Castillo can still continue to rake. Riz wants it. Riz loves it. Next up in the 7-hole, left fielder Isaac Collins. Batting second in the 8-hole, second baseman Michael Massey. And batting third in the 9-hole, center fielder Kyle Isbell. And on the mound for the Mariners with a no-hitter so far, pitching great. 2 innings pitched, no hits, no earned runs, no walks. He's got fucking 3 Ks. Someone pinch me. 21 pitches, 17 strikes. His ERA is below 6 now, 5.93. And hopefully he'll be able to continue this the rest of the way. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. I mean, there's 3 individuals that lost the game for us yesterday. Randy, obviously in between the base paths, thinking it was ball 4, and that definitely hurt. Julio and Mooney late in the game. Julio missing that ball and have it go past him, and Mooney's just been fucking terrible. How do you be a top 5, top 10 closer and now turn into bottom 10? And obviously his grip is not good, and that's why I was kind of hoping we'd have Brash as the closer, but then as soon as maybe that was something that, maybe they would possibly consider, what happens? Brash gets hurt. So we gained another sub since the last commercial break. Appreciate you. 32 subs away from 24,000. So, we've had a lot of key guys go down with injuries and, just stupid mistakes. And again, when you're not playing good baseball, those mistakes get magnified times 1,000. 0-1 pitch, high and away. 1 ball and 1 strike from Castillo to Collins. And again, I think, if Mooney ends up being okay, hard hit ball goes over Cole Young's head and rolls there into Connor Joe. And a nice base knock there for Isaac Collins. Next up in the 8-hole, second baseman Michael Massey. And hopefully we'll be able to get a strikeout and a double play, or a double play and a strikeout here. But again, a lot of managers play it safe. It's not like there's a lot of good managers out there in baseball. Out of 30 teams, there's only like 4 or 5 that are really good, and then the rest are kind of a revolving door. When they get fired, then someone else comes in. They don't really bring in, college World Series, champion coaches and have them come up, to the MLB. So it's not like the NFL when you could promote a offense or defensive coordinator and whatnot. So it's much harder to get a good manager in baseball. There's no doubt about that. 1-0 pitch. Fouled off, out of play by Massey. 1 ball and 1 strike from Castillo to Massey. Top of the third, runner at first with no outs. We're knotted up at 0 here early, trying to prevent the sweep. One pitch, big swing and a miss. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Castillo to Massey. One-two pitch, high and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Castillo to Massey. Top of the third inning, 0-0 here early between the Royals and the Mariners. And I like what I'm seeing so far here out of Luis Castillo, who has been our worst starter, hands down. And, he's definitely has been due for something good. And hopefully this will continue. 2-2 pitch. Big swing and a miss, and another punch out by Castillo. That's number 4. Let's go. Nice job. I like that, baby. 4 Ks for Castillo. And again, we haven't really seen, this version of Luis all year, and I'm happy that we're getting it here with these steelhead uniforms. Down goes Massey, striking out, swinging. That is 1 away. Pareda, get him, got him. What a throw by Johnny Pareda. Don't you dare try to run on us. There we go. Andrew Kisner, who? Mitch Garver, who? Cal Raleigh, who? Johnny Pareda. Played a little bit with the Twins, a little bit with the Athletics, the Tacoma Rainiers. Look at the throw. And obviously a lot of throws that end up going into second are going to be wide right. But this one is on target right there. J.P. Crawford, tag on the head. Beautiful. Johnny Pareda making a difference so far here with Castillo. Next up is Kyle Isbell, and that is 2 away. And again, when we can get good defense, that can give us a little bit of that Uncle Mo and that momentum. I love when guys, make big plays like that. That was huge. Collins gets caught stealing after getting the first hit for the Royals. 1-1 pitch. Fouls that one off. And behind the plate to the T-Mobile bricks and the Farmers Insurance sign. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Kyle Isbell. Let's go, Castillo. And again, sometimes certain pitchers with catchers, they have a good rapport and a good chemistry. 1-2 pitch, a little blooper, and that goes in front of Randy and Julio. And another base knock there for Kyle Isbell. Next up, third baseman Michael Garcia. It's like Bizzardo and Garver. They got a good rapport together. And Cal can, be with everyone. We know Cal can be with all the starters and the bullpen. And, obviously, he's one of the best in baseball. We know that. But it's always nice to be able to have certain, guys, fit in with the backups. And, again, I like what I'm seeing here so far out of Castillo and Pareda. First pitch in there to Michael Garcia is a ball, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, little dribbler towards third base and foul. First pitch was high and away with a sinker, 96 miles an hour there by Castillo. Second pitch fouled off towards third base. 1 ball and 1 strike to Michael Garcia. Come on, Castillo. 1-1 pitch, low and away, but in the zone. And this is the most locked in Luis Castillo has looked in a long time, and I'm so thankful. Now we just have to hope that the bats don't disappear after he has a great game like Emerson Hancock did yesterday as well. Call is overturned with that ABS challenge. 1-2 count turns into 2-1. It was right on the line, but I still like where most of these, baseballs are coming out of Castillo's hand, location-wise, locked in. 2-1 pitch. Ends up being a ball. 3 balls and 1 strike to Michael Garcia. All day in the building. What's good? Trident's up. Let's go, M's. The 2-1 pitch was high and inside. Slider 84 miles an hour. 3-1 pitch. Pops him up. And Randy is there, and that should be routine. And Julio steps in and ends up getting it, and that is the no-fly zone at its very best. And out number 3. And again, we don't mind if, certain pitchers give up a hit here or there. We just can't have the big RBIs. We can't have the big home runs. And we can't have a lot of wild pitches and a lot of walks. And again, awesome job there by the defense and Luis Castillo getting the job done. And Johnny Pereda, really just eliminating the start of a potential rally right out of the gate. And that's exactly what you want to see. You want to run on us? Go right ahead. Pereda will throw you out. Great inning there for the Mariners. Now let's go to the bottom of the 3rd inning and let's get on the board already. Let's take the lead and not look back. Let's see who's up next year for Seattle. Next up for the Mariners in the 9-hole, 3rd baseman Leo Rivas. Batting second, 0 for 1, DHing Rob Refsnyder. And batting third, 0 for 1 with a K, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Definitely digging the Steelhead uniforms. They look a lot better than the ones that said Steelheads in the past. Very clean, subtle, classic look here. Let's go, Leo. See if he can start it off for us. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 32 subs away from 24,000. Let's go, baby. Gained another sub since the last commercial break. Appreciate you. 31 subs to go to 24,000, approaching 6 million views on the channel. Hit 5 million just a few months back, so we're definitely going in the right direction. We got 165 in the room. Let's see how close we are to 100 likes. We're at 50. We're halfway there. Good start. 50 likes, 50 to go. And we're still looking for our first dono on our dono train. Oh, I miss the cream jerseys as well. I miss the gray jerseys, and again, they only have so many that they're going to be able to wear and whatnot. But, this is a pretty slick look, It kind of reminds you of, the old school times, obviously, based off like the Negro League and, back in the day. It definitely feels, like a jersey that they would wear, back in the day, in the 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, It's got that old school classic look. 1-0 pitch, popped up, and out of play. 4-seam fastball, 90 miles an hour there by Bubic. 1 ball and 1 strike to Leo Rivas. Let's go, Leo. Chris Bubic, 2-1 record with an ERA of 3.74 coming in, and Leo Rivas in the box. 1-1 pitch, takes a strike looking high and inside. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Leo Rivas. Yeah, but I do miss the cream jerseys as well, Dandy. I think the creams are a very clean look as well, But again, if you're a fan of this team, not everyone is going to, be a fan of every jersey. There's going to be some that are better than others. 1-2 pitch, just got a piece of that. Change up, 88 miles an hour there by Bubic, who was hoping to get the punch out. But Leo just got a piece. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Leo Rivas. All day in the building. What's good? 1-2 pitch, popped up and out of play. And also you got to remember though, Dank, it's his first game, and we want to make sure that, he's probably a little, more worried about just, calling a good game for Castillo and making sure he doesn't have any balls get past him. And, again, we ended up signing Kisner in the offseason. They decided to let him go and, got Garver back with the team, but he ended up catching yesterday. So, again, you would want, an individual, like if it was Garver or Cal, maybe we do challenge, a pitch here, a pitch there early. But, for a guy that's playing in his first start in a Mariner uniform, it's probably not going to be calling too many. 2-2 pitch, low and at the knees. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Leo Rivas. And it's not like we're down 4-0 right now. So, it's 0-0. They got a good rapport. He threw out a guy stealing second. And who knows? Maybe Pareda will end up challenging something before the game is up. But I'm not sure if that really is the main priority at the moment. 3-2 pitch. And a good eye there by Leo Rivas. And that is a walk. We'll take it. We haven't really been able to get walked or hit by pitches too often. And again, we had JP Crawford with some small ball with a bunt, and hopefully that won't be the only bunt that we see. Nice job there by Rivas, good patience. And now let's see if we can get something special here out of Rob Refsnyder. Now we know that he loves swinging at the first pitch. Maybe the only guy that really gets the green light with the first pitch, starting 0 for 20 and not really doing anything, but finally starting to be somewhat decent, lately within the last few games. First pitch, high and away, 1-0 count. And, again, you're not going to get a pitch right down the middle, on the first pitch from every batter. 1-0 pitch, takes a strike down the middle on pitch number 2. 1 ball and 1 strike to Rob Refsnyder. Bottom of the 3rd inning, runner at first with no outs. Rob has got a little bit of power. Same thing with Connor Joe, even though they're not, as maybe consistent, as you would like. But again, they've been playing a little bit better than Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone as of late, which is crazy to say. But, you got to go with the hot hand. And obviously, when it's a lefty pitcher, we're going to go strong righty lineup. When it's a righty pitcher, we're going to go with the lefty lineup. And honestly, I've been a little disappointed with Dom and Luke lately. They need to be better. Pitch is low and at the knees. 2 balls and 1 strike to Rob Refsnyder. 2-1 pitch, high and away. And it looks like Bubic might have a little bit of a mini meltdown here if Refsnyder can force another walk and we have back-to-back walks with runners at first and second with no outs. I think this will be the inning where we can get on the board, as long as we don't have an unfortunate double play. But let's see if Refsnyder can end up working this count. Single, double, home run, or take a walk. Come on, Refsnyder. 3-1 pitch. High and inside, fouls that one behind the plate. And if he wouldn't have swung, probably still would have been a strike on the corner. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Rob Refsnyder. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Throw to first. And Rivas is safe. And Rivas has tried to do his, best that he can, but he's no Brandon Donovan, for a guy that normally can hit, 300 to 320, and can get home runs, singles, doubles, triples, and is a better defender, even though he's playing a new position. And they say that's strike 3 looking. And that one looks off the plate. If they challenge that probably gets overturned to a walk. So at some point you would hope Pareda, when he has an opportunity to be able to challenge. But again, Refsnyder probably should have challenged that last pitch, and that would have been ball 4 rather than strike 3. But again, another one kind of slipping through the cracks. Next up is Julio Rodriguez. First pitch in there to Julio, takes a strike right down the middle, sweeper, 81 miles an hour, 0-1 count. And at least Julio, after starting off slow in the first 10 games, has been red hot. And hopefully we'll be able to get some good production here out of Julio. 0-1 pitch from Bubic to Rodriguez. Big swing and a miss. Change up 87 miles an hour by Bubic. No balls and 2 strikes with a runner at first and 1 out. Bottom of the 3rd inning, 0-0 here early. Let's go, J-Rod. Let's go, Julio. And we traditionally struggle against left-handed pitching, but as of late, we've been a little bit better. And Julio has been red hot, batting over 300 in the last 15 games. And, kind of feels like he finally has figured it out, the patience in the box. And again, he's going to get into 0-2 counts like this, from time to time, but again, he has been much better in the last 15 games, compared to maybe the first 10 to start off the season when him, Cal, and Naylor were terrible. 0-2 pitch, high and away. Now, if that was Julio from last year or the year before, that would have been strike 3. He just would have gone for it. So, let's see if he can end up getting this count in his favor at some point. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Julio Rodriguez. He had 2 2-run blasts in game 1, couldn't win. Hancock had 14 Ks, an MLB high, not just a Mariner high, an MLB high, and we couldn't win. And, something's got to give. Injuries, poor play, people falling asleep in between the bags, not knowing, what the count is, having balls get past them, Mooney being terrible. At some point, we got to be able to put it together. 1-2 pitch, runner goes. And a nice hit and run there by Leo Rivas and Julio Rodriguez. Leo going for the triple. Woo! Going for that third base. Let's go. I like that. Nice hit and run there. So from first base, they go for the hit and run. And Leo Rivas goes from first all the way to third. And a nice single there by Julio Rodriguez. Great job by Julio. Now we have runners at first and third with 1 out. And again, in hit and run situations, we haven't really been very good this year. That's one of the very few that it actually has worked out for us. Great job by Rivas. Great job there by Julio. And let's see if we can end up getting Josh Naylor with an RBI or a home run to open this game up. Let's go. I mean, let's be real. The both losses were harsh. Wu giving up 6 and then having Ferrer give up that, run late and losing 7-6. And then yesterday, Hancock 14 Ks and we still can't win. It's brutal, but, this is being a fan of the Mariners. Sometimes we're going to have joy and other times we're going to have misery, but, we have to stay positive and optimistic. And, the American League overall is shitty. So it's not like we're, a bottom 5 team in the American League. Thank God. A lot of other teams are shitty too. Yankees and the Rays are good, but again, there's wiggle room, but again, it's not going to get any easier when we have the Braves coming up next. 1-0 pitch, little dribbler here by Naylor. Looks like it could be a double play. And no throw back to first. Fielder's choice. Runner comes home. And there we go. Nice job there by Josh Naylor, giving us just enough to get the lead. And we'll take it. 1-0 Mariners. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. I love it. And thankfully, we didn't end up giving up the double play there, and Rivas was able to come home. And again, if you have patience, by being able to take a walk, and then you're able to execute the hit and run and go from first to third, Leo definitely did a great job there. And a little ground ball by Randy right to Pasquantino, and Pasquantino has been gobbling up every ball towards first base, with double plays and line drives. We haven't really been able to get past, Pasquantino yet, but again, at least we end up taking the lead, and Castillo's pitched well. Let's keep it going. End of the third inning, 1-0 Mariners. Nice job there by Leo Rivas and Josh Naylor getting the job done. Nice job, Josh. Naylor grounds out into a fielder's choice. Rivas scores from third, 1-0 Mariners. 1 run, 2 hits, no errors for the Mariners. 0 runs, 2 hits, no errors for the Royals. And let's look at the pitcher stats here quickly. Luis Castillo pitching a gem. 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs. The key stat, no walks, 4 Ks, 38 pitches, 27 strikes, and his ERA goes from 6.35 coming in with an 0-2 record to 5.74. Nice job, La Piedra. And then for Bubic, 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 Ks, 49 pitches, 31 strikes with a 3.6 ERA. And he had a 2-1 record coming in with a 3.74 ERA here coming in. End of the third inning, 1-0 Mariners. Right ends up. Let's go, M's. $31 subs away from 24,000. Let's go. All right, we're at 58 likes, 42 to 100. Next up is Bobby Witt Jr., batting second, Vinny Pasquantino, and batting third in the 4-hole, Salvador Perez. First pitch into Witt, big, swing and a miss, high and inside, 0-1 count. Oh, 1 pitch, high and away. 1 ball and 1 strike from Castillo to Witt. Top of the 4th inning in a pitcher's duel. And normally Castillo is by far our worst starter, even though we have seen Gilbert with a meltdown. Wu has been absolutely terrible. You know, Wu lately in his last 2 starts has been pitching like Castillo prior to this game. You know, so that's not ideal. Hancock and Kirby have been excellent. We lose Matt Brash. You know, Mooney's been terrible. So, you know, and we've had injuries now to Cal and obviously Brandon Donovan. So there's a number of reasons why things have gone a little sideways, but I still believe in this team, no doubt. 1-2 pitch, low and away. Slider 85 miles an hour there by Castillo. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Bobby Witt Jr. Two pitch. Whoa, high and inside, almost hits Witt. First wild kind of pitch there that gets away from Castillo. 4-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour. There by La Piedra. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Bobby Witt Jr. Chris with a 20. Thank you so much. And thank you for the belated birthday wishes. We definitely had a lot of love and support. And I appreciate you. And Witt with a little line drive that goes right in front of Julio for a base knock. We get our first dono on our dono train. Thank you so much, Chris. $20 dono, 80 to go to hit the goal. Thank you so much for your support. And again, we had a lot of people wishing me a happy birthday, not only on socials, you know, through the YouTube as well, and in the chat last night. And again, thank you so much. Even though we ended up having a dramatic loss, it was actually one of my best birthdays that I've had in quite some time. Next up is Vinny Pasquantino. First pitch, high and away, change up 87 miles an hour, 1-0 count. And it makes you kind of wonder if Cal is behind the plate or Mitch Garver, maybe Castillo doesn't do this well. So, you know, Johnny Pereda and Castillo definitely have a good connection here. And maybe that is something that they need to, you know, look at moving forward, you know, depending on, you know, what's going on with Cal and, you know, how often Garver is catching as well. You want to make sure you're pairing up certain guys if you're going to be able to have a good connection. So 1-0 pitch, takes a strike swinging low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Vinny Pasquantino. 3-hitter for Castillo, and again, you know, much better than we normally have seen out of him. 1-1 pitch, and another hit here into right field to Connor Joe. And now we have runners at first and third, and this is the first time the Royals have started to threaten. All right, he's got 4 Ks, but again, we can't give up back-to-back-to-back-to-back hits like we saw with Wu, you know, in game 1, 2 singles and 2 doubles, and we were down 4-0. You know, we do have a 1-0 lead, but now we desperately need a strikeout and a double play or a double play and a strikeout. And realistically, with a sac fly, this game is going to be tied, you know, momentarily, it feels like. But, you know, maybe we can get a little bit of luck out of Castillo and the defense bailing him out. Come on, Luis, settle in. Back-to-back hits, not ideal. Witt to third, Pasquantino to first. Next up is Salvador Perez. First pitch is low and away. Slider 85 miles an hour, 1-0 count. Perez in the box. Luis Castillo on the mound. Come on, Luis. Oh, and he hits Perez. Uh-oh. And this is the bad Castillo. Now we got bases loaded with no outs. And again, he was able to be clean for 3 innings, but then the bad Castillo emerges. And now he gives up back-to-back hits and hits Perez, you know, there on the elbow. Yikes. Come on, Mariners. And now we just have to hope that we, you know, don't end up getting down, you know, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1 this inning. We're going to need a little bit of a mini miracle. Come on, Luis. You pitched so great in the first 3 innings. But again, this is baseball. And let's be honest, look at the fucking lineup that the Royals have. Bobby Witt Jr., potential future Hall of Famer, Vinny Pasquantino, it definitely is like Michael Garcia. You have to not take them for granted. And then fucking Salvador Perez, a guy that will probably be in the Hall of Fame as well. So, not ideal when you go against guys, like Garcia, Witt, Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez. Those are not easy guys to get out. And hopefully we can find a way to, limit the damage here. And, hopefully, best case scenario, we still have a 1-1 tie. I don't know if it'll still be a 1-0 lead, especially with bases loaded and no outs. For us to keep them at 0 with bases loaded and no outs would take a miracle. Next up is Carter Jensen. Come on, Louise. First pitch in there for a strike. Four-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour. 0-1 count. Oh, 1 pitch, low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Carter Jensen. But, again, we got Sloan and Cade Anderson waiting in the wings. Bryce Miller in the near future, And again, at some point, this team won't have J.P. Crawford because we'll have Colt Emerson. And we won't have Castillo on the team anymore. But, for the time being, this is what it is. And we got to deal with it. 1-1 pitch fouled off behind the plate by Carter Jensen. 1 ball and 2 strikes with bases loaded and no outs. Sports gods, we need a miracle. Strikeout, double play, strikeout. We just got to be able to limit the damage here. 1-2 pitch to Jensen, high and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Castillo to Jensen. Jensen in the box. Luis Castillo on the mound. 2-2 pitch, low and away. Change up 88 miles an hour there by Castillo, and it just seems like a switch was flipped. First 3 innings, he looked like prime Castillo. And then now in the 4th inning, this is what we're kind of used to. Every single start, for the most part, has looked like this. And it's a little alarming. 3-2 pitch. Popped up. And out of play. Four-seam fastball, 95 miles an hour. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Carter Jensen. Three-two pitch. And he walks him. Jesus. Runner from third comes home. And now we're tied. Yikes. And again, with a 1-1 tie, bases loaded and no outs. I mean, this could end up turning into 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, 7-1 in a heartbeat. Why did Matt Brash have to get hurt? We need a double play desperately. First pitch, high and inside to Jack Caglione, 1-0 count. And for all those great punch-outs and great location Castillo had in the first 3 innings, it seems like he's had a meltdown, and I'm not sure if he'll recover. Little dribbler that goes behind the plate and foul. Let's warm up Alex Hoppe and bring him in. I mean, I don't really want to bring in Hoppe necessarily with bases loaded and no outs and whatnot, but, if there is a guy that, other than Bizzardo that could help us get fucking outs, it's him. We might need to bring up Cade Anderson sooner than later and throw him in the pen. Little dribbler up the middle. Force out there at second. And if you're going to just go for the force out and not the double play, why not throw home? Hello? 2-1 Royals. And again, we had 20 years of not making the playoffs with no hope. So, again, this is not a team that's going to be for everyone, unless you've been a fan since the 70s and 80s or the 90s. If you're a newer fan, you got to be mentally tough. It's not always going to be easy. Now we got runners at first and third with 1 out, and we need a double play. Collins pops it up. Fly ball hanging up to Julio. Throws. Tag him! Got him. There we go. Julio. Salvador Perez, he's one of the slowest guys in MLB, just like Giancarlo Stanton. He's got a little bit of weight on him. And a nice throw by Julio. Pareda with the tag. Perez is claiming that he was safe, but let's look at the replay. Oh, he is safe. Damn it. He is safe. And now that's going to end up being 3-1 Royals. Good try there by Pareda, but after looking at the replay, it's clear he is safe. No problem, Shaggy. I got you. No doubt he's safe. You can see the fingers cross home plate before the tag is applied. 3 great innings out of Castillo, but I guess, when you're a bad pitcher, again, at some point those bad, things are going to happen, or the other team is just going to end up, finding a way. So now it's 3-1 Royals with 2 outs. And hopefully that'll be the only 3 runs Luis gives up. But, traditionally speaking, usually Luis is at like 5 to 10 runs that he gives up. So good job there by Salvador Perez. Julio gave his best effort with the throw, but it just wasn't in time. Next up is Michael Massey. First pitch to Massey is high and away, 1-0 count. Pitch, high and away. 2 balls and no strikes to Michael Massey. And it's just crazy, how somebody can look so locked in and then just lose it, but when you're not a really good pitcher, that's what happens, and again, Hancock obviously with 14 Ks yesterday. That's an MLB high this season. And we just weren't able to get enough run support for him. It's devastating, man. It's like when you finally make history and do something good, then another part of the team fucking melts down. Starting pitching, bullpen, hitting, defense. It's like that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other, except we can't just bring it all together. 3-0 pitch here, incoming to Massey. Come on, Castillo. 3-0 pitch, finally getting a fucking strike. 3 balls and 1 strike to Michael Massey. Yeah, but if you actually look at his numbers, since 2022, he hasn't been really that good. Traditionally speaking, and looking at the analytics and the metrics, every year after 2022, he's been going downhill. 3-1 pitch popped up. JP is there. And that is out number 3. So, obviously it could have been worse, I guess, but again, when you get bases loaded with no outs and then you end up walking the runner from third to home, and then, something, big could happen, a grand slam, 3-run blast, and again, definitely not ideal, but again, it's not like we haven't come back from a deficit before. We've had to be able to grind out wins all year. It's been a rough year, and now we just have to hope the bats can come alive. And again, if you want to win games in baseball, 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits, you got to be able to hit that number just to compete. Yeah, there's going to be games where you're going to win 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 in a pitcher's duel. But again, you don't want to really leave it up for chance, not really knowing what's going to happen with our bullpen. But all it takes is one guy to have a mini meltdown and you can get back in it. And Castillo had a major meltdown. Hopefully we'll be able to respond here in the bottom of the 4th with at least a run to creep back into the game from 3-1 to 3-2. Next up for the Mariners, 1-for-1. J.P. Crawford. Let's go, J.P. Batting second in the 6th hole, second baseman Cole Young. Let's go, Cole. And batting third, 0-for-0 with a walk, right fielder Connor Joe. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. And it also shows baseball's hard. It's like, hockey. It's not easy, for basketball and football. You can be an athlete and, make buckets and catch passes and whatnot. But baseball, offense and defense, and with the NHL and skating and defending and, checking and scoring, I mean, they're on a different category. Gained another sub since the last commercial break. Appreciate you. And now we're down to 30 subs, do 24,000. Let's go. We're at 20 on the Dono train. Lazaro Montez wheeling and dealing. 8 ribbies yesterday. Let's go. 71 likes, 29 to 100. And again, Lazaro at some point, could end up being our future right fielder. And again, can't wait to be able to have him on the team. Kate Anderson, Ryan Sloan, Lazaro Montez, as well as the number 1 guy, Colt Emerson. First pitch from Bubic to Crawford, takes a strike looking, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, takes another strike looking, almost in the identical spot. Sweeper first pitch, sinker on pitch number 2. No balls and 2 strikes to J.P. Crawford. 0-2 pitch, little dribbler here by J.P. And toe tap on the bag by Pasquantino. We haven't been able to get anything past Pasquantino all series, and that is 1 away. I definitely think the A's are a threat. They seem like they're a better team this year, and obviously a lot of the teams in the AL West are struggling. But I think it definitely could be the A's or the Rangers, Mariners, in that mix. It kind of feels like you never really can count the Astros out, even though they've had a tough year like us. And again, you just don't really know, how it all plays out. I think one thing, I might be certain that we have a feeling that the Angels will not win the division. That's one team that will finish probably 3rd, 4th, or 5th. But, between the Mariners, and you never really can count out the Astros, even though they haven't been good this year. And there we go. Cole Young with a base knock into left field and finally gets off the Schneid, going 0 for 4 in back-to-back games. That's my boy, Cole Clutch Young. But I definitely think it could come down if the Astros keep, kind of flailing. Maybe they could potentially finish in 4th, but who knows? But maybe it ends up being the A's and the Rangers and the Mariners battling it out, for 2 spots. And we'll see how it goes. But nice job there by Cole Young getting off the Schneid. I put him on the thumb thinking that he'd be able to get going, and there we go. Nice job by Cole. Now let's see if we can get something here by Connor Joe. First pitch, takes a strike looking right down the middle, 4-seam fastball to Joe. Yo, Joe. 0-1 count. I mean, really, the only mistake that the A's made is trading Mason Miller away to the Padres. But, looking at, Kurtz and, Jacob Wilson and, Langoliers and all the, studs that they have on their team, it definitely is not going to be easy. The Angels and the Athletics play us tough when we take them for granted. And then we always play the Rangers and Astros tough, but you don't really know what to expect. 0-2 pitch, big swing and a miss right down the middle. Down goes Joe, and that is 2 away. And next up is 8-hole hitter getting a chance to play, catcher Johnny Pareda. But also with the White Sox, Isaac, as you know, with Murakami, and anytime you get a player from Japan and they end up balling out, whether it ends up being a high-end guy like Ichiro, someone that ended up, making a mark with like Seiya Suzuki, in the past. But, there's a few guys, one on the Blue Jays and one on the White Sox. But when you can end up matching Aaron Judge, in the MLB for home runs early in the year, and you just came over from Japan, that's a big thing. And people were kind of wondering, why did he sign with the White Sox? That's a terrible team, right? But he definitely is leaving a mark and helping that team win. 0-1 pitch, fouled off there by Pareda towards third base. No balls and 2 strikes from Bubic to Pareda. And if you ended up watching the WBC, you could kind of feel, at some point or another, Ohtani was working with him and, kind of giving him some pointers and whatnot. And, Japan definitely has been bringing some better quality players, not just pitchers like Hideo Nomo from the past. You're getting positional players that are definitely, making their own. 0-2 pitch. And that's going to be lined foul. But again, a lot of teams in the American League are not very good this year, so at least we have to keep that perspective. No balls and 2 strikes to Johnny Pareda. And also, I think, maybe expectations were, very, very high, and, pressure was on the players as well as a lot of others. And, we haven't proven that we can make the playoffs in back-to-back years yet in the Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez era since 2022. But, hopefully at some point we'll be able to make the playoffs, 2-3 years in a row and, kind of buck that trend. 0-2 pitch, high and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Johnny Pareda. Bottom of the 4th inning, 3-1 Royals. Castillo had a meltdown. 1-2 pitch, popped up behind the plate and foul. 4-seam fastball, 92 miles an hour there by Bubic. 1 ball and 2 strikes with a runner at first and 2 outs. Bottom of the 4th, 3-1 Royals. And maybe when Bubic leaves, we get a righty and we can start getting some fucking home runs, because obviously lefties are kryptonite. 1-2 pitch, big swing and a miss. And Bubic goes back to first, and that is out number 3. End of the 4th inning, 3-1 Royals. Yeah. And again, if you've been a fan of this team, it's not always been peaches and cream. We had 20-year drought of not making the playoffs, and I still watched every game beginning to end with no hope of making the playoffs. It's either you love teams or you don't. And, we've gotten much better since 2022, but again, you got to have the right perspective, and, you have to be optimistic. Sometimes things are going to go great and it's going to be like we're on cloud 9, and other times we're going to be fucking miserable, on 4 or 5 game, losing streaks, and we're going to have to battle back. And, thankfully it's a 162 game season, not 62. Otherwise we would be definitely in big trouble. All right, let's go to the top of the 5th inning. And hopefully they have somebody starting to warm up, because I don't really know how much longer we can have Castillo in this game. And again, the bats haven't really been able to get really going yet, but let's see who's up next year for the Royals. Next up for the Royals in the top of the 5th, 9-hole hitter, center fielder, 1-for-1, Kyle Isbell. Batting second, 0-for-2, third baseman, Michael Garcia. And batting third, 1-for-2 with a run and a K, shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. $30 subs to go to 24,000. We're at 20 on the Dono train, 80 to go. And we're at 75 likes, 25 to get to 100. Let's go, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. First pitch from Castillo to Isbell. High and inside. 4-seam fastball, 93 miles an hour, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, popped up. And we'll take pop-ups and ground outs all day. Naylor is there, and that is 1 away. Down goes Isbell with the pop-up to Naylor. Next up is Michael Garcia. And again, it kind of was looking like and trending in the first 3 innings. Castillo with, 4 Ks. It looked like, it wasn't going to be an Emerson Hancock performance, but it definitely was looking like maybe Castillo would get to 7 to, 9 Ks if he kept, trending that way, but had a meltdown in the 4th inning and gave up 3. And bases loaded, no outs is not ideal, but, I still think that we can come back. 0-1 pitch, low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Michael Garcia. 1-1 pitch. Low and away. 2 balls and 1 strike from Castillo to Garcia. And again, with the Japanese, players, obviously with me, obviously being half, I follow, quite a bit on what's going on over there and whatnot. And not every, Japanese player is going to be like Ohtani or, Murakami, And another base knock here up the middle by Michael Garcia. Again, they do have a lot of pitchers and, obviously a lot on the Dodgers, right? They have a lot of singles hitters, like the one you got on the Blue Jays. But, obviously, Murakami is giving you Ohtani kind of vibes with the, big swings. He's a bigger type of guy. And you're starting to see, some of those bigger body home run kind of guys out of Japan, which is definitely nice to see. And then you get guys that are kind of all around, like Suzuki. They're on the Cubs, which I like as well. So top of the 5th inning, 3-1 Royals. Next up here is Bobby Witt Jr. First pitch to Witt, big swing and a miss, 0-1 count. Yeah, so half on my mom's side, and my dad is Czech and like European. So I got the Eastern European on one side, with Czech and a bunch of the European countries for part of my nationality, and then the other half, my mom is 100% Japanese, from Osaka and whatnot. So. Definitely have a certain type of perspective on things, when you end up growing up half and whatnot. So 0-1 pitch, fouled off, high and inside. No balls and 2 strikes to Bobby Witt Jr. 0-2 pitch, high and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Castillo to Witt. I used to be able to speak fluently, when I was younger, but then when you get Americanized, with everything in school and everyone else, you start to kind of lose, some of those things. So I can't speak fluently anymore, unfortunately. 1-2 pitch, popped up and behind the plate. 4-seam fastball, 94 miles an hour there by Luis Castillo. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah, Daisuke Matsuzaka, there for the Red Sox. And you had it all started off with Hideo Nomo on the Dodgers in 95. And, Hideki Matsui was a pretty good player for the Yankees. And, they've just been getting better and better. Popped up into center field. Julio is there, and that is 2 away. And then honestly, being able to have Ichiro, being one of the best pure hitters ever with like a Pete Rose, Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew type is amazing. Ichiro is in a class of all of his own. And then to get arguably the best player in baseball, Shohei Ohtani, with Aaron Judge. Obviously, we know those are usually the top 2, but Ohtani sometimes gets the nod because he can pitch and he can hit, right? So obviously we don't see Aaron Judge on the mound, doing the things that Ohtani does. So, again, it definitely Japanese players have come a long way. But again, you're going to get, great Caucasian players, great black players, great Dominican players, great Venezuelan players, get great Japanese players. You're going to get great players all over the globe. And that's what makes baseball so special. First pitch to Pasquantino. Takes a strike looking high and away. Change up 86 miles an hour. 0-1 count. And now, obviously, if you watch the WBC, you saw a lot of that amazing talent spread all across the globe. 0-1 pitch. Pareda, throw to second. Got him. Oh, he dropped it. Oh, I thought JP had it there. Ball comes out of his mitt. And Pareda's got a pretty good arm there. And again, if JP was able to, close that mitt properly, maybe that's another out there. And it just goes underneath JP's glove. And if that ends up going right into the glove there, if JP puts the glove a little lower, he's going to be out. One pitch. Julio is there. And that is out number 3. We leave one stranded. And at least that, Castillo doesn't have back-to-back inning meltdowns. And let's see if we can end up getting a run or 2 to tie this game up. Next up for the Mariners as we go to the bottom of the 5th, 0-for-0 with a run and a base on ball. Third baseman, Leo Rivas. Let's go, Leo. Batting second, 0-for-2 with a K, DHing Rob Refsnyder. Let's go, Rob. And batting third, 1 for 2 with a K, center fielder, Julio Rodriguez. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. $30 subs away from 24,000. Help us get to that number. If you haven't subbed to the channel just yet, we're at 82 likes with 169 in the room. 18 more to get to 100. We only need 18 more to get to 100 out of 167 in the room. And then we're at 20 on the dono train, 80 to go. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Cool Josh Naylor bobble. It looks like him. Cool pose. First 10,000 fans, May 18th and 19th versus the White Sox. First pitch from Bubic to Rivas, high and away. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, big swing and a miss with the sweeper, low and away. No balls and 2 strikes to Leo Rivas. Bottom of the 5th, 3-1 Royals. Come on, baby. And we got a heat wave here in the Pacific Northwest. It's 90 here in Oregon. And again, we've had a lot of 60 and 70 degree temperatures, so for it to jump up to 90 is wild. But it's only going to be for one day, thankfully. 0-2 pitch, high and away, change up 85 miles an hour. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Leo Rivas. Yeah, but we're going against a lefty, you know. And again, if the lefty ends up being pretty good, sometimes this happens. I mean, if you go back, you know, prior to 2022, you know, and look at the roster that we had back then, hell, we were striking out 15 to 20 times a game, you know, and we didn't have Julio, we didn't have Cal and the team that we have now. So, you know, if you think things are bad now, I mean, it used to be a hell of a lot worse. So, you know, again, and we have the talent to do it, but again, we're not the greatest at left-handed pitching, you know, and again, teams know that and they exploit that weakness. It's like our kryptonite. But on the flip side, when we actually have a strong lefty lineup, when we go against a right-handed pitcher, those other guys that come in for Rob Refsnyder and Connor Joe, Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone really haven't been, you know, good lately. Now, Luke at one point was leading the team with home runs and, you know, RBIs and, you know, was doing pretty well. But, you know, Luke and Canzone are very streaky. When they're on, they're really on. But when they're off, they're just ice cold. And we need those guys to really help us out when we go against righties, especially with the injuries to Brandon Donovan and Cal Raleigh lately. 3-2 pitch popped up into deep left field, and that is 1 away. Down goes Leo Rivas. I wouldn't mind, you know, seeing another bunt, you know, drop down here again, a little small ball. Next up is Rob Refsnyder. We could definitely use one of these right now, a big Refsnyder home run. Let's go, Rob. 0 for 2 with a K so far. First pitch, takes a strike right down the middle with a slider, 85 miles an hour, 0-1 count. Bottom of the 5th inning, 3-1 Royals. We're just trying to prevent the sweep, and hopefully we get a righty to come in or another lefty that has a meltdown and we can take advantage. 0-1 pitch, hard hit ball into right field and foul. Four-seam fastball, 93 miles an hour there by Bubic. No balls and 2 strikes to Rob Refsnyder. I mean, well, Castillo has been terrible. Munoz has been terrible. You know, big swing and a miss by Refsnyder, and that is strike 3. 2 away. We know J.P. Crawford, this might be his last year with the team, and we have Colt Emerson to take his place, who is like Cole Young. So that'll be an upgrade when we get that. And then at some point, Cade Anderson will be a starter, and Castillo won't be on the team. And then, it'll be, Cade Anderson, Bryce Miller, as well as, the normal guys with Kirby, Wu, Gilbert, Miller. And then obviously, Cade Anderson getting in the mix, maybe Ryan Sloan at one point down the road as well. So, and it wouldn't hurt, to bring Cade up and throw him in the pen, considering, he's been killing it. But, again, we probably will have to wait a few months for Cade, and hopefully we'll be able to get Colt Emerson called up, at least by June, like we did with Cole Young last year. 1-0 pitch, big swing and a miss, low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Julio Rodriguez. But Castillo definitely is terrible, and he's been terrible for a few years. And, I honestly think if Cade Anderson got called up, today, that he would be better than what we get out of Castillo, even with him being as raw as he is, And Julio pops up into center field to Kyle Isbell, and that is out number 3. But Cade has actually been one of the best, pitchers in the farm system overall. He has been just crushing it. Sloan hasn't been as good as him, but still pretty good. And Colt Emerson has been raking and doing really well, for the Tacoma Rainiers or AAA affiliate. So even getting Cade and Colt up on the roster would give us a big emotional lift, as well as bringing Victor Robles and Bryce Miller back to the team with their injuries, as well as Cal. And obviously, I think the big reason why we've been, in a big hole, no Brendan Donovan. Think about how important he was for us to win games early in the year. He was one of the only guys besides Cole Young that was really actually hitting. And then, we ended up having these injuries and whatnot. But when Donnie comes back, it definitely will give us a big emotional lift. Let's go to the top of the 6th inning and see who's up next here for the Royals. Next up for the Royals in the top of the 6th, 0 for 1 with a run, DHing future Hall of Famer, more than likely, Salvador Perez. Batting second, 0 for 1 with an RBI and a base on ball and a K, catcher Carter Jensen. And batting third, 0 for 2 with an RBI, right fielder Jack Caglione. Trident's up, let's go M's. All right, 89 likes, 11 to 100. Let's go, baby. But I've been a fan of this team since the mid-'80s. And, regardless on what our record is or how things go, I'm never going to quit on this team, and you'll always have someone to watch a game with here. Gained another sub since the last commercial break. 29 subs to go to 24,000. Let's go, baby. Win it for Riz. Top of the 6th. We're down by 2 runs. First pitch from Castillo to Perez, fouls it off. Behind the plate, 4-seam fastball, 93 miles an hour, 0-1 count. Oh, 1 pitch, high and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Salvador Perez. I don't think JP is terrible. You just don't like him, Isaac. JP has won us games, and got us, clutch home runs and clutch ribbies. Now, he has been a little shaky defensively. I'll give you that, Again, oh, what a catch. Connor Joe making the grab, but I wouldn't say JP is terrible. You just personally don't like him. And you love Colt Emerson like I do, and you just can't wait for the time where Colt and Cole play together. So, you just personally dislike JP Crawford. But again, there's a lot of guys on this team that are worse than JP. Nice job there by Connor Joe. Next up is Carter Jensen. Normally JP is a guy that you can rely on defense, and lately has been shaky. And again, he's never been the great offensive player. I mean, hell, he used to be a leadoff hitter, and then he turned into the 9-hole hitter, and that took a big emotional toll on him, mentally. To be the guy, the leadoff hitter, and then to be the 9-hole hitter, it's a slap in the face, and then, had to move to like the 7 and the 8, and, he's never really recovered after being replaced, as the leadoff hitter to Victor Robles, Randy Arozarena, and now obviously Brandon Donovan, but I don't know. I don't think I would use the word terrible when I talk about JP Crawford. Maybe Luis Castillo we can say terrible. We can say terrible Munoz this year, but I don't know if we can really say terrible for JP. 2-0 pitch, high and away. 3 balls and no strikes to Carter Jensen. 3-0 pitch, fouled off. Yeah, I absolutely think that we can win. I mean, again, and the game isn't over till it's over. Even when things look bad, all it takes is one pitcher to fuck up in a half inning and you score 1 to 5 runs and come back, right? But you just never know how games are going to play out. Is it going to be low scoring? Is it going to be a pitcher's duel? Are both teams going to rake? Are both pitchers going to have a meltdown? Is our bullpen going to be good or is it going to shit the bed? Or is their bullpen going to be good and shit the bed? Like, you don't really know how it plays out, but obviously having these additional injuries with Donovan, Cal, and Brash is not fucking ideal. 3-1 pitch, big swing and a miss right down the middle. The count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Carter Jensen. And we got a 3-game set against the Braves next, and they're one of the best teams in baseball. So if we get fucking swept by the Royals, what do you think is going to happen when we play the Braves? It's going to be probably hard even just winning 1 game unless the pitchers come to play. The bullpen is good. We get Donnie back at some point sooner than later, even though it won't be that series. And, the bats come alive. And, hopefully we don't get swept here, and hopefully we don't get swept by the Braves, because losing fucking 6 in a row is unacceptable. But, it's baseball and sometimes it happens. So, but maybe we'll, rise to the occasion. Maybe we get swept by the Royals if we don't win here, but maybe we win 2 out of 3 against Atlanta when everyone thinks we're going to get swept. I mean, we're going to have, some better pitchers available. 3-2 pitch popped up. Connor Joe is there, and that is 2 away. Down goes Carter Jensen. Next up is 6-hole hitter, right fielder, Jack Caglione. But again, we've definitely been a team that, can find ways to win, in the 8th and the 9th inning in extras. But we've also had fucking meltdowns where we should have won a bunch of games and Munoz has fucking blown it, and it hurts, when you have a guy that normally is a top 5, top 10 closer. And now with his grip and his mental health issues, can't close out a game. When you have a 2-1 lead, you expect to be able to win. And, he's blown a lot of fucking games. And, it just stinks, to have a guy that has that kind of talent be a bottom 10 guy as a closer, this year. But hopefully things will get better. Otherwise, we have to move Matt Brash when he comes back to be the closer. Because if you continue with Munoz, we're not going to make the playoffs, based on how he's played. 2-0 pitch. Finally gets a strike right down the middle. And honestly, if Brash didn't get hurt, I was kind of hoping that they would, swap him out. Have maybe Mooney come in the 8th inning and see how he does before, putting him back as the closer. But again, sometimes certain positions are kind of set in stone and, managers aren't willing to make the move. I mean, how many teams actually have 2 pitchers in the bullpen that could actually be a closer? Not many. We actually have a guy in Matt Brash that could do it. And unfortunately, Brash is injured, so we're not going to be able to use him for the moment. 2-1 pitch, fouled off, out of play. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Jack Caglione. Yeah, but also, we don't really play the Royals well. If you go back, regardless of record, it's like when we play the A's and the Angels. Everyone thinks it's going to be fucking easy and we're going to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, keep them, and then we get our ass kicked. Certain teams match up to us really well. Royals, A's, and the obviously Angels, we probably take for granted, and usually it doesn't go in our favor. And then teams that we expect to step up and bring our A game, Rangers, Astros, Yankees, sometimes things end up being good, but sometimes we get our ass kicked there as well. But we usually get up for those games, and again, you just can't take anybody for granted. And we got to walk here to Caglione. And hopefully somebody's warming up. And there's my boy, Alex Hoppy, warming up, and he's looking electric. When they had him go 2 innings, he had the meltdown in the 2nd inning. But when he first, got up, he got 2 punch outs, and then he retired the side and got 3 punch outs. So, this guy could end up being, that emotional lift that we need, considering we don't trust Gabe Spire. We don't trust Jose Ferrer. We don't trust Mooney. Brash is injured. We don't really know what we're getting out of Cole Wilcox and Cooper Criswell. Legomina's not on the fucking team anymore. So it's like we got Bizzardo and Hoppy. Those are the only motherfuckers that we can trust. That's not good. When you got fucking like 10 guys, in the bullpen and the closer, and you have 2 that you can fucking trust, and again, it's not like we're going to get to 5 runs or more every game. And sometimes you need, the pitching and the bullpen to be good. And, traditionally for the Mariners, it's usually one of our strengths. But, when one thing gets good, another thing goes sideways. First pitch from Castillo to Collins is high and away, 1-0 count. Not really sure why that was challenged there. Not even close. 1 ball and no strikes from Castillo to Collins. But, again, in the near future, once we get some of these young prospects called up to the team and we get rid of some of the weaknesses, we'll be much better. Hard hit ball, deep center field, off the wall. Get it, Julio. Go, throw. Get him. Damn it. And Johnny Pereda cannot get a hold of that ball, and another run scores. But again, once Luis Castillo and JP Crawford are off the team, we're going to be in a better place. And I don't know. We might have to look for another closer at some point, if Mooney can't get, right, after this year, unless we end up, putting Brash in that role. But, and it's like we've always had pretty good closers, but again, a lot of those guys end up getting injured, like Edwin Diaz. The Dodgers paid a lot of money to bring him over from the Mets, and he's already injured and whatnot. And I did love Edwin Diaz when we had him, for that brief period of time before he went to the Mets and now the Dodgers. And, Mooney has been electric the last few years, but this year he's just fucking terrible. I think it's mental, and it's also his grip, which he has mentioned. But, if you don't got the stuff, it's definitely hurting us. I mean, think about how many games where we had a 2-1 lead and he blew it, and then after that, another guy comes in like Ferrer and he fucking blows it. It's like, it's rough. First pitch to Massey, fouls it off, 0-1 count. But again, when you only have 2 pitchers out of 5 that you can trust right now, Gilbert, you can't really trust, Wu, you can't trust, and Castillo, you really can't trust. Sometimes, depending on who is pitching, you can get swept, and again, it's like, it's not like we can have Kirby and Hancock pitch every game. And even when we do have Hancock get fucking 14 Ks, we still fucking can't win, so, go figure. And down goes Massey. We finally get out number 3, but not after Castillo gives up another run. And now we're down by 3, and we desperately need to get another run on the board. Come on, Mariners. Next up for the Mariners, 0 for 2 with an RBI, first baseman Josh Naylor. Batting second, 0 for 2, left fielder Randy Arozarena. And batting third in the 5-hole, 1 for 2, shortstop J.P. Crawford. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Got to find a way to get a rally here. We got to chip away. Try to at least get to 2, in the next 2 innings. And then see if we can come within a run or 2, late in the game, unless we can have a monster meltdown by one of their pitchers. 29 subs away from 24,000. We got a heat wave here in Oregon, 90 degrees today. All right, we're at 98 likes, 2 more to 100. We're almost there. 178 in the room. And we're at 20 on the Dono train, 80 to go. And it's not over till it's over, no matter how bad things look. You never know when that meltdown is going to happen. You know, it's easy to be negative because a lot of people are just naturally negative when things go wrong in their life. You know, someone gets a flat tire and then they bitch and moan, but it could always be worse. You could have 2 flat tires. You could have 3. Fuck, someone could have slashed all 4 of your tires. You know, no one always, you know, you always have to look at it with a certain type of perspective. You know, when things go wrong, you know, it could always be worse, you know, but not a lot of people have that type of outlook in life. Bottom of the 6th inning, 4-1 Royals. You know, we definitely need an RBI sequence or a home run. You know, we need a meltdown. And again, we'll see what happens after Castillo exits. And, you know, if Hoppy gets in there and does his job, and hopefully, you know, we'll see what happens after, you know, we hopefully get on a rally here. First pitch to Naylor, high and inside, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, high and inside to Josh Naylor. 2 balls and no strikes with nobody on and no outs. Bottom of the 6th inning, 4-1 Royals. And Naylor with a nice base knock. Here we go. Nice job, Josh. There we go. Naylor hopefully starting something special here. Next up, left fielder Randy Arozarena. First pitch, big swing and a miss there by Randy. 0-1 count. You know, and again, when you end up making mistakes, you know, everything gets magnified times 1,000. Oh, we can't hit. Worst hitting team in baseball. Then we correct that. And then, you know, pitching was good. And now pitching is going sideways with 3 of our starters. And then we have Brash injured. And then Mooney sucks. And then the bullpen stinks. And then the defense is great. And then all of a sudden you have plays like Julio last night. So, you know, whenever you get one thing corrected, it always feels like another thing fucking has a meltdown. And, you know, unfortunately, that's just baseball. And sometimes that's life. 1-1 pitch, high and away. 2 balls and 1 strike to Randy Arozarena. But you always got to have kind of blind faith, you know, that at some point before the game is over, something good could potentially happen. 2-1 pitch, high and away. 3 balls and 1 strike to Randy Arozarena. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, player discipline. And a lot of our players are not disciplined, you know, falling asleep between first and second, you know, timing off, Randy not knowing what the fucking pitch count is when we have bases loaded, like, you know, ending the fucking inning, like, you know, unacceptable. Little dribbler there, double play, throw to first. And Randy hits into a double play. Brutal. And that is 2 away. You know, and every time there's a mistake, you know, it ends up getting magnified, especially if pitching and hitting haven't been good that day. And honestly, you know, for me, I'm not really a big Randy fan. You know, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if we ended up, you know, cutting him. And then obviously we're not going to cut him, you know, but for him to get traded or to go another team. And it's, you know, hard to find left fielders, you know, that have talent like Randy. And again, you know, he's a guy that could potentially hit, you know, 20 to 40 home runs, you know, and he's pretty good in pop-ups. But again, as far as, you know, effort and hustle on ground balls, running to first, and just his overall vibe, I don't like him. You know, he's not my guy, you know, and, you know, I would love for Lazaro Montes to get called up, even though he's more of a right fielder, but, you know, we'll see where the team goes. Little dribbler up the middle there by JP Crawford and out number 3. And, you know, usually I like, you know, most of the players on the team, but I've never been a Randy guy. You know, it kind of just seems like, you know, he's bigger than baseball in his mind, you know, and maybe that was how, you know, things were when he was on the Tampa Bay Rays, you know, there with Luke Raley, you know, but I've never really been a fan of Randy. I don't really like him, you know, and again, I would rather have a guy that gets 15 to 20 home runs, that's a great defender in left field on pop-ups and ground balls, than a guy that gets 30 to 40 home runs and gives up 100 fucking runs in a season because of his laziness in left field. So, you know, I love Julio. You know, I like Robles. You know, there's certain guys. I think Lazaro Montes down the road, maybe in right field. And I don't know if, you know, Canzone can play left, or Luke Raley can play left, or if Lazaro Montes can play left. But, you know, once Castillo's off the team, JP's off the team, and, you know, hopefully one day Randy's fucking off the team, you know, maybe we can improve certain positions and we can get better. But for the time being, we have to stick with those guys. So, you know, but I feel like, you know, out of all the players that have like mental breakdowns, Randy might be the biggest dumbass out of them all. It's like, it's one thing to not have hustle, running to first base and, getting ground balls and throwing lobs instead of lasers into the infield, and then him falling asleep and just making mental errors. He definitely is the guy I feel that makes the most mistakes, and it's just unacceptable. Who cares if a guy hits 30 to 40 home runs if he gives up 100 to 120, by just playing shitty defense in left field all season. So, I'm not a Randy guy. If you're a Randy guy, I wish the best for you, but, I think that we could be much better, without Randy on the team. But again, it's hard to find a left fielder that's good. I got to be honest with you. All right, let's go to the top of the 7th inning and see who's up next here for the Royals. Next up, 1 for 2, center fielder Kyle Isbell. Batting second, third baseman Michael Garcia, and batting third, shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. But again, I don't really think that anybody on the team, has that type of mentality where they think they're like better than they are or bigger than the game. But Randy, his attitude comes across that way, that, I'm just as good as Julio or better, or Cal. And, obviously with Team Mexico and Team USA, with him and Cal, having that, supposed, thing that was just, overblown and whatnot. But we got Alex Hoppe here on the mound here for the Mariners, and hopefully he'll get it done. 0-1 pitch, fouls that one off. No balls and 2 strikes from Hoppe, who's been great, besides having him pitch in his first start in that second inning to Kyle Isbell. But this is definitely the best pitcher coming out of the Tacoma Rainiers that we've been able to implement that has been impressive. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Alex Hoppe to Kyle Isbell. And obviously having Brash injured, this will help us a little bit. Gives up a base knock there, though, on his first batter. And Kyle Isbell continues to stay hot. Come on, Hoppe. Settle down and settle in. Next up is Michael Garcia. Next up is Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah, well, Colt, plays shortstop, and this was probably JP's last year, until like JP gets hurt and whatnot. But, just having Colt in the dugout, would give us a little emotional lift. Same thing with Cade Anderson. You could put Cade in the bullpen and help us immediately. It's not like our bullpen is good right now. But again, that's the decision from the organization on when they bring these guys up. 1-0 pitch, takes a strike looking low and at the knees. 1 ball and 1 strike to Michael Garcia. 1-1 pitch. And double play, not in time. Fielder's choice. And that is 1 away. Yeah, WBC, wasn't ideal for, a lot of teams. And half of our, roster played in that tournament, and definitely, didn't get enough reps, with the teammates in spring training, that's for sure. Some guys, start slow. I don't think anyone anticipated the Mariners being the worst hitting team in baseball prior to the Astros series and whatnot. But, again, at least we have a 162 game season, not 62. Otherwise we'd be definitely in, big trouble. But, the American League is shitty overall. Yankees and Rays are good, but there's a lot of wiggle room. And, I still believe in this team once we get players back from injuries and we call up a few guys. I think that we can be able to, find our momentum, but again, it's definitely been a hard year to watch. First pitch to Bobby Witt Jr., big swing and a miss, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, popped up and out of play. No balls and 2 strikes to Bobby Witt Jr. Oh, 0-2 pitch, high and away. But again, if you're not familiar, if you watch the Royals and the Athletics and the Angels, I think most Mariner fans going in thinking we're going to win 2 out of 3. But the reality is sometimes we get swept by these teams because, we take them for granted and then they just punch us in the mouth and we don't recover, 1-2 pitch, low and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Hoppy to Witt Jr. No, it'll never go to 154. It'll always be 162. There's no point on doing less games when they want to make more money. Every game that they have is more money for the owners, so. 2-2 pitch, hard hit ball in right field and foul. 2 balls and 2 strikes with a runner at first and 1 out, top of the 7th, 4-1 Royals. I mean, Dan Wilson is responsible for some, bad, managing and decision-making, especially in high-stress moments, pulling a guy too soon, leaving a guy in too long, bringing the wrong guy in, but every manager, fucks up in that way. 2-2 pitch, big swing and a miss, and Hoppy with a punch out on Bobby Witt Jr., my boy, and that is 2 away. Nice job there by Hoppy. And we got Gilbert, Kirby, and Wu against the Braves, and that isn't going to be easy, but at least we have 3 of our better guys, pitching other than Emerson Hancock. Obviously, if we had Hancock, Wu, and Kirby pitching, but even Wu has been bad the last 2 starts, so we don't know what version of Wu we're going to get. Kirby's been better. Kirby's been the best. Gilbert has been better since the beginning of the year, but if Wu gives up 6-7 runs, we're not going to win, and he's definitely put us in a bad position in his last 2 starts, and hopefully Wu will be better. Hopefully he doesn't have 3 bad starts in a row. Otherwise, we're going to have concerns. 0-1 pitch, low and away to Vinny Pasquantino. 1 ball and 1 strike from Hoppy to Pasquantino. Hoppy on the mound. Pasquantino in the box. 1-1 pitch. High and away. 2 balls and 1 strike to Vinny Pasquantino. Yeah, but again, Lou Pinellas don't grow on trees, and out of 30 teams in baseball, there's like 5 good managers. It's not easy to get a new one, and it's a lot of former players, and, it's just not easy like in the NFL or college football where you can, get a coordinator, offense or defense or, some other school. NFL, you can, get NFL guys, offensive, defensive coordinators, and you can get college head coaches and college defensive and offensive coordinators. For baseball, they don't bring up, the college World Series champion manager from like LSU and bring him up. I mean, it just doesn't fucking happen. It's pretty rare, to even hear of anybody from college getting called up. 2-2 pitch, hard hit ball, deep center field. Julio is there, and that is out number 3. And it kind of makes you wonder why, there isn't more college managers getting called up to the big leagues. But it's a lot of just former players, and, guys get hired, guys get fired, and it's just kind of like a recycling revolving door that just never ends. One shit manager goes to another, team and then gets cut and then goes to another team, and that's just kind of how it goes. So, all right, let's go to the bottom of the 7th inning and see if we can get a run or 2 and scratch our way back into this game. We got to scratch, claw, any way that we can here. Next up for the Mariners, 1 for 2 with a K, second baseman Cole Young. Batting second, 0 for 1 with a base on ball with a K, Connor Joe. And batting third, 0 for 2 with a K, catcher Johnny Pareda. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Got to find a way. $29 subs to 24,000. All right, we're at 107 likes. Thank you so much. 43 to 150. So Naylor grounds out to a fielder's choice. Rivas scores 1-0 Mariners. Jensen walked with bases loaded 1-1. Caglione grounded it out to the fielder's choice. Pasquantino scores 2-1. Collins with a sac fly to center. Perez scored 3-1. And then Collins doubled to center. Caglione scored 4-1. So, we only have 4 hits so far. We haven't had any home runs. And again, when you go against lefty pitching, sometimes this is what happens. And, hopefully we'll be able to find a way, and Bubic is at 86 pitches. So he's almost done. And hopefully they bring in a righty and, we can find a way to, I don't know if we can bring in, Raley and Dominic Canzone late to have, some late inning heroics, but something's got to give. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. But I know one thing for sure. We need Brash back ASAP. We need Brandon Donovan back ASAP. And we need Cal Raleigh back ASAP. And if you think about it, one of the best hitters, one of the best catchers, and one of the best in the bullpen, not being available, that's not going to be easy to win with those guys not available. It's like, we have a decently deep team, but not that deep. So... all right, bottom of the 7th inning. We're down by 3. We got to get some type of rally going. First pitch in there to Cole Young. Takes a strike looking with a slider. 83 miles an hour. 0-1 count. Come on, Cole. Be that clutch player that we all know that you can be. 0-1 pitch. Popped up. And out of play. Sweeper 80 miles an hour there by Bubic. No balls and 2 strikes to Cole Young. Come on, Cole. Bring that electricity. One home run or, one big RBI sequence. We're right back in it. (0-2 pitch. Check swing. Did he go? Brutal. And Cole Young strikes out. And that is 1 away. A very uncharacteristic at-bat there. Next up in the 7-hole, right fielder Connor Joe. On deck is Johnny Pareda. And a lot of it also is mental. If some of the players have mentally checked out, you're not going to come back. It's like you have to still believe that you can come back and win. And, for certain guys like Randy, it feels like he checks out every game. He's just not mentally there. He's thinking about what to do after the game. And Joe pops up into shallow center field. Isbell is there, and that is 2 away. Next up in the 8-hole, getting his first start here with the Mariners, catcher Johnny Pareda. Worst bullpen ERA, Royals are top 4. Astros, Angels, Twins, and Royals. But will that make a difference? Them being, a bottom 4 bullpen, are we going to be able to take advantage? I sure as hell hope so. First pitch into Pareda. Called ball, ABS challenge, and that gets overturned to a strike. (0-1 pitch. And ends up going into the dirt, back to the backstop there. 1 ball and 1 strike to Johnny Pareda. Bottom of the 7th inning, 4-1 Royals. (1-1 pitch, high and inside. And if we challenge that, that could be overturned, but we haven't really been doing a whole lot of ABS challenges here today. 1 ball and 2 strikes should be probably 2 balls and 1 strike. 1-2 pitch, broken bat by Pareda. Throw to first. And that is out number 3. End of the 7th inning, 4-1 Royals. Let's go to the top of the 8th and see who's up next here for Kansas City. Next up, 0 for 2 with a run, DHing Salvador Perez. Batting second, 0 for 2 with an RBI and a base on ball and a K, catcher Carter Jensen. And batting third, 0 for 2 with a run, RBI and a base on ball, right fielder Jack Caglione. Trident's up. Let's go M's. Got to find a way. And Cole Wilcox is coming in. And it definitely shows you that, more needed to be done in the offseason with the bullpen. Trading Harry Ford for Jose Ferrer, that wasn't it. Should have signed a hell of a lot more pitcher starters or bullpen guys to bolster this bullpen. Every team ignores the bullpen, and it's, the position group that's going to win you or lose you more games than any other position group. So why do teams ignore the bullpen? It's just crazy. All right, top of the 8th, 4-1 Royals. We're just trying to avoid the sweep, especially when we have one of the top 5 teams in baseball coming in next with the Atlanta Braves starting tomorrow in a 3-game set. And you assume it's going to be just as hard, if not harder, against Atlanta, since they're much better than Kansas City. But, we'll see how it all plays out. First pitch fouled off there by Perez. Low and away, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, big, swing and a miss. Nasty slider there by Wilcox. 88 miles an hour, low and away. No balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and no outs. Top of the 8th inning, 4-1 Kansas City. 0-2 pitch, little dribbler. Jesus Christ, JP. And again, JP Crawford, normally a pretty good defender. Lately, hasn't been good. Colt Emerson. Hello? Colt Emerson. And Salvador Perez reaches first on a fielding error, and they're going to have a pinch runner for him. I mean, how many, errors are we going to take out of JP Crawford with him not being able to hit on top of that? Call up Colt Emerson ASAP. First pitch, high and away to Carter Jensen. Slider 87 miles an hour, 1-0 count. One-0 pitch. Outside, 2 balls and no strikes to Carter Jensen. Four-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour, missing by Cole Wilcox. And things are definitely in a tough situation where you got a couple AAA guys, playing and a couple AAA guys in the bullpen. It's not ideal to rely on AAA players, to be able to, get you out of a hole. 2-0 pitch, fouls that one off out of the play. 2 balls and 1 strike to Carter Jensen. Yeah, Emerson's a great defender and a great hitter. He's like Cole Young, so he could help us in both categories. 2-1 pitch, takes a strike looking, low and away. Slider 87 miles an hour there by Wilcox. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Carter Jensen. 2-2 pitch, low and away. Sweeper missing by a couple inches. 88 miles an hour. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes. We're the runner at first and no outs. Top of the 8th, 4-1 Kansas City. But again, we've had a number of things. Dan Wilson not being the greatest manager, injuries, to certain key players. Brash, Cal Raleigh, Brandon Donovan. Bullpen going sideways. Mooney being fucking terrible. Castillo being fucking terrible. Wu being terrible the last 2 starts. But again, at least Kirby and Hancock have been great. So at least that's, on the bright side. Julio has been playing better in the first half of the season after that first 10-game slump. Cole Young overall has been pretty damn good, offense and defense. So, we definitely have a few bright spots, but definitely not enough. There's definitely more things that are going against us than positive things that are going for us. And there's another walk to Carter Jensen. Next up is Jack Caglione. And a little slow dribbler there. Can't even get a fucking double play. Jesus Christ. And we'll see if we get a review here with a challenge. He's safe. No chance to get that runner at first. Yeah, especially getting 14 Ks. His, career high was 9 up to that point. And, 14 Ks is an MLB high in 2026. It sucks, when you make history and something good happens and you still can't fucking win. But, that's just the story of the Seattle Mariners in 2026, I guess. First pitch is high and away. Sweeper, 87 miles an hour, 1-0 count. One-0 pitch, big swing and a miss. 1 ball and 1 strike to Isaac Collins. But for a lot of us that have been a fan of this team since the 70s or the 80s, it's not going to affect us, compared to maybe newer fans that hopped on the bandwagon in 2022, or even more recent, so you got to be mentally tough to be a fan of this team. 1-1 pitch, high and away. 2 balls and 1 strike to Isaac Collins. Two-one pitch, low and away. Count now is 3 balls and 1 strike with runners on the corners at first and third and 1 out. We desperately need a double play. Sports gods, can we get one? Can we get a slow dribbler up the middle from Collins and actually, did not get the fielder's choice only and actually complete the fucking double play? And that ends up being a walk. Wilcox is garbage as well. And now we got bases loaded with 1 out. 4-1 Kansas City. And we really haven't had this many, injuries to key guys. Obviously, last year we had, some injuries with Gilbert and Kirby and had to rely on Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock. And Hancock wasn't good last year. And, Evans was, good at home, but not really on the road. And, we battled a lot of different things. And, even with all the things that went sideways for us in the first half of the season, we still ended up making it, to the ALCS. So, but it definitely feels like it's much worse this year compared to last year with all the different things going against us. But I still believe in this team. First pitch to Massey, crushes it into right field and foul. And it shows you if you don't have enough quality players in the pen and you have a hard time hitting, really hard to win. It's like, we only got 1 run on the board. You got 2 guys in the pen that you can trust. And Edward Bizardo, who pitched yesterday, won't pitch today. And then, Alex Hoppe. Everyone else is untrustworthy, including our closer, Munoz. So, again, when you only have 2 guys out of like 10, how do you win games? The only way you win is if you end up scoring 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits or more to make up for the bullpen not being reliable. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that lately. 0-2 pitch. And a little ground ball. And foul. Yeah, we're always going to be a second half team. You know, that's usually how, you know, we operate. And we'll always be buyers at the deadline. And, you know, there's no doubt about that, especially, you know, with the roster that we've constructed. We just kind of need to weed out some of the bad pieces, you know, and the team is going to look much better next year, you know, top to bottom. Hopefully no Castillo, no JP Crawford. We got to figure out with Mooney if that's the guy or not, you know, and Colt Emerson, Kate Anderson, you know, there definitely is going to, you know, little line drive, JP, and a big double play. There we go. Nice job there. And for every bad play that JP makes, you know, sometimes he'll end up making up for it. And that was one of those opportunities right there. You know, he's had a lot of errors and a lot of missed balls in the last 2.5 weeks and had a missed ball, you know, just a few minutes ago. But a nice grab and a nice throw to second base. And again, with bases loaded and 1 out, you know, for a lot of us fans watching this game, it looked like, you know, it was potentially going to be 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 and fucking over, right? But at least we find a way to get out of that jam. And now we just have to try to get, you know, 2 runs here to make it 4-3 and try to get 1 in the 9th. And again, I know that's easier said than done, but, you know, we just need 1 mini meltdown by one of their pitchers. But essentially at this point, we need 2 meltdowns. We need a meltdown by the pitcher in the 8th and a meltdown in the pitcher in the 9th. And we saw in the Cardinal game, you know, when we were down, we ended up getting 2 in the 8th and 2 in the 9th, and we came back and won 11-9. I'm not saying that we're going to win this game 5-4, you know, but it's not over till it's over, even though it feels like it's over, you know, but it's always easy to be negative watching this team in 2026. You got to have a little bit of blind hope. Next up, 0 for 1 with a run and a base on ball, Leo Rivas. Let's go, Leo. Batting second, 0 for 3 with 2 Ks, DHing Rob Refsnyder. And batting third, 1 for 3 with a K, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. And I mean, look at the lineup too. You know, it's like you got no Cal Raleigh, you got no Brandon Donovan, Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone aren't playing. And again, when Connor Joe and Refsnyder are doing good, you know, we probably win. But if Refsnyder's not doing anything and Connor Joe's not doing anything, and then you got Pareda not doing anything, and Leo Rivas, who essentially is a AAA player, not doing anything. That's fucking 4 guys out of the lineup. And then you got to pray to God and anything above that Julio, Naylor, Randy, and Young can do enough to win. And sometimes that's just asking fucking too much, you know, to only have 4 guys out of fucking 9 to get the job done, you know? So, you know, when we go against left-handed pitching, it's never fucking easy. And teams know it too. They're exploiting it, you know? Even if a lefty's got an ERA of like fucking 10, they'll throw him out there, and sometimes the Mariners will still struggle. But now we finally get a righty to come into the game, and hopefully we get a righty in the 8th and a righty in the 9th. Schreiber is coming in. 1-0 pitch, takes a strike looking right down the middle. 1 ball and 1 strike to Leo Rivas. ABS challenge. Call is overturned. One, 2 pitch to Rivas. Low and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes. From John Schreiber to Leo Rivas. And a little slow dribbler there by Leo. Throw to first. And that is 1 away. All right, Dominic Canzone getting a chance to play. Let's go, Dom. We could really use a solo dinger here for Dom, or even just getting on base. First pitch from Schreiber to Dominic Canzone. Low and away, 1-0 count. One-0 pitch, low and at the knees. 2 balls and no strikes to Dominic Canzone. The Reds have been good this year. Sal Stewart doing a great job as a rookie. Ellie De La Cruz is always fantastic. So, they're usually in one of the, top 3 spots in the Central in the National League. And they were in first for quite some time, but they've been kind of going up and down in the last few games. And, we wish the best for Gino. 3-0 pitch to Dominic Canzone. Gets the corner on the line for a strike. Sinker there by Schreiber, 92 miles an hour. 3 balls and 1 strike with nobody on and 1 out. Bottom of the 8th, 4-1 Royals. 3-1 pitch. Big swing and a miss there by Dominic Canzone. Come on, Italian Stallion. We need you. Three-two pitch. And there we go. Dominic Canzone with a walk. There we go, Dom. Nice pitch hit walk. Next up is Julio Rodriguez. Can we get a Julio 2-run blast here? Let's go, J-Rod. I mean, if there was ever a time that we needed 2 runs now and then 2 in the 9th, it's right here. Let's see if Julio can give us a little magic here. And it hits it right off the pitcher. And they get the fielder's choice at second. Bad break on that deflection. And they were able to make that out there at second base. But Julio safe at first. Yeah, but again, it's not always going to be, this bad. Again, we go through waves, with injuries and poor play, good pitching, good bullpen, bad bullpen, good defense, bad defense, it all comes full circle. The pitching and the bullpen and the hitting and the defense, not are going to be, rolling all at the same time, usually there's going to be a weakness or two sometimes, and then it ends up being other things besides just the, starting pitching, the bullpen, the hitting, and the defense. Sometimes it's just mechanics. Sometimes it's discipline, and again, you've got a lot of undisciplined players like Randy Arozarena, lack of hustle, and poor managing. There's a lot of things that can equate to losses. It's not just simple, it's just this thing or it's just this thing. I mean, a lot of times it's a number of things, that we're doing wrong. And, and especially when you're losing games, things get magnified, tenfold. And, and we notice every, mistake. Now, if we end up scoring 5 to 10 runs, and then we end up having a mistake like an error, we probably let it slide because we're still rolling, but when you're at a fucking 1, and you're losing, and then you have a mistake and then like another mistake, you don't let it go, and it ends up, it hurts even more. So, but again, we are a second half team, and, we'll see what happens here. Next up is Josh Naylor, and they're going to make a pitching change. So that was a quick outing there for Schreiber. Let's see who they bring in next. And they're going to bring in Daniel Lynch, the 4th. Of course, they bring out a lefty, and every team has been exploiting the Mariners, because they know that our righty lineup is just not good. And again, if you know that, certain teams, can't hit left-handed pitching. You're going to throw as many lefties out there as possible. So now, as of late, we've been a little bit better, but again, you can't bank on Connor Joe and Rob Refsnyder to bail you out of games. And we also need Dominic Canzone and Luke Raley to be better as well when we go against right-handed pitching. 1-0 pitch, big swing and a miss. 1 ball and 1 strike to Josh Naylor. Come on, Josh. We could really use a 2-run blast here to get it to 4-3. And if we end up getting it to 4-3, we'll have a chance in the 9th. It might be a small chance, but it's still a chance. Like in Dumb and Dumber, So you're saying I got a chance. And Naylor is challenging the strike call here. Don't know if... Now we're out of challenges. Naylor hasn't been very good at challenges lately. All right, bottom of the 8th, runner at first with 2 outs. We're down by 3. Lynch on the mound, the lefty. And we got Naylor in the box. But I'll never give up on this team, no matter how bad it gets. There's always got to be someone that's going to, stay positive, no matter, how bad things get. 1-2 pitch, big swing and a miss. Down goes Naylor. And that is out number 3. End of the 8th inning, we go to the top of the 9th, and we only have one last chance for a miracle. And the chance of us realistically coming back, I won't say it's 0, but it definitely feels like it. Next up, 2 for 3, center fielder in the 9-hole, Kyle Isbell. Batting second, 1 for 4, third baseman, Michael Garcia. And batting third, 1 for 4 with a run and 2 Ks, shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. Definitely kind of gives you memories of the Padres series when we went to, San Diego, where we got swept there. And we've gotten swept a few times already this year, and it never feels good, but... again, the Atlanta Braves are on deck, and we can't run away from them. We just have to go at them, head on, and hopefully Cal will be back. And again, it sounds like Donovan probably won't be back until the White Sox series, which sucks, and hopefully we get a lot of right-handed pitching from the Braves because we're going to need it. But on the bright side, even though we're sucking this year, a lot of teams are sucking in the American League. So I guess that's the one bright spot that we have. It's not like we're one of the worst teams in the American League, even though we have a, quote unquote bad record below 500. So. Okay, we gained another sub since the last commercial break. 28 subs to 24,000. We're at 20 on the Dono train. 80 to go. And let's see how close we are to 150 likes. We got almost 200 in the room. And we got 117. Let's see if we can get to 125 before the game is over. And if you're starting to feel sorry for yourself or sorry for the Mariners, go to the American League standings. It'll make you feel better. Trust me. It's like, gosh, the Mariners, when we play like this, we feel like we're one of the bottom 5 teams in the American League, but we're actually one of the, top 5, 6, 7, teams out of 15, believe it or not, even with the record that we have. So, Yankees are good, the Rays are good. And then it's like everyone else, then a lot of teams at 500, a game above, a game or 2 below. So we're not as bad, as people really think. Even though it feels bad, we just have high expectations based on last year. Nick Davila coming in and making his MLB debut. And a 2-0 count turns into a 3-0 count. 3 balls and no strikes to Kyle Isbell. All right, let's see what Nick Davila has. So far looking shaky. Doesn't look like... And a 3-0 pitch turns into a 4-pitch walk. I was about to say it doesn't feel like you're going to get a, another Alex Hoppy type, but we'll see where this goes. Next up is Michael Garcia. On deck, Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah. And the team that, the Yankees probably, fear the most is us, based off our roster. We're injured and we're not playing well, and, a lot of things are going sideways for us, but again, out of all the teams other than the Yankees, who's the team that matches up? Even though sometimes we get our ass kicked against New York, let's be honest, but a lot of teams get their ass kicked by New York, but we're not afraid of them, and, I feel that, the Yankees are, the top team in the American League, but it still feels, like we're still one of the other teams that could contend and challenge them, even though we haven't played our best ball, here in the first, 35 games. Remember, 162 games, so. One-0 pitch, takes a strike looking right there on the line. 1 ball and 1 strike to Michael Garcia. One pitch, low and away. 2 balls and 1 strike from Nick Davila, making his MLB debut. And also, when you got a lot of AAA players, in the bullpen, AAA players, in the lineup, it's not going to necessarily go your way more times than not. So, but we definitely need more depth. And, Cade Anderson and Colt Emerson, we need to call these guys up sooner than later. With all of these holes and problems we have, those could at least help us, but again, knowing the Mariner organization, they're going to wait as long as possible to bring those guys up. But I would love to see Cade Anderson and Colt Emerson in a Mariner uniform on the daily, even if they don't play. Popped up. Julio is there. No fly zone, and that is 1 away. Next up is Bobby Witt Jr. First pitch in there to Bobby Witt Jr. Low and inside. Slider 87 miles an hour by Nick Davila, making his MLB debut from the Tacoma Rainiers. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch. Fouled off there by Witt. Behind the plate. No balls and 2 strikes with a runner at first and 1 out. Top of the 9th inning, 4-1 Royals. Oh, 2 pitch, big swing and a miss, and Nick Davila can tell his family, I struck out Bobby Witt Jr. Nice job. Nice job. Next up in the 3-hole, first baseman Vinny Pasquantino. Well, when Castillo pitches, it's almost an automatic L. With Wu giving up 6 and 7 runs, if he does that, we're not winning games like that. Now, if Gilbert can pitch like he has lately, we'll have 3 guys with Gilbert, Hancock, and Kirby that we should have a chance. But again, look at yesterday's game. Emerson Hancock gets an MLB high of 14 Ks, and we still can't win. So sometimes, even when you end up doing amazing on the mound, it doesn't equate to wins. It has to be a combination, of good pitching, good bullpen, and, the bats coming alive. And unfortunately, sometimes we can't do that. But I know what you mean, But again, hopefully Wu will turn it around because we definitely need him to. I'd rather have 3 guys that I can count on, rather than just 2. But right now it's, Kirby and Hancock, and, Gilbert is kind of on the fence of, the trust, even though he was bad early on. But, let's see how consistent he is in the next 2 or 3 starts. And then Wu's been terrible the last 2, and Castillo started off the first couple innings in this game, 4 Ks, and then he had a meltdown. So, And I honestly think if we called up Cade Anderson today, that he would be better than Luis Castillo right now. Even though he's incredibly raw, yeah, I know he won a natty and he's obviously in the farm, but I think that Cade would play better than Luis Castillo and maybe even better than some of the others, if you give him a shot, but again, they're going to wait until they think he's ready. 5 runs, 7 to 10 hits. It has to be the goal for every Mariner game. And, getting 1 to 3 runs, more times than not doesn't cut it unless you end up getting into a pitcher's duel and you're lucky enough to win 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. But we haven't been very good in 1-run, low-scoring games lately. Throw to first, a nailer here. And we're normally used to having Wu be electric, Kirby and Gilbert being electric, and then, obviously Castillo being bad, and then Bryce Miller being kind of so-so, And then obviously we had the injuries to Gilbert missing a month and a half, Kirby missing the first 3 months, having to rely on a bad Emerson Hancock and a, up and down Logan Evans. And, it's just, things haven't really been ideal. And then Wu was awesome last year, but then he got hurt late and that cost us a chance of making it to the World Series, and, injuries are just one of those things that no one can really see coming, No balls and 2 strikes to Vinny Pasquantino. 0-2 pitch from Davila. Check swing, goes down to a knee, but it is a ball, low and away. Slider, 86 miles an hour. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Vinny Pasquantino. Fans don't like, seeing the team lose, but imagine the players, You have to be physically strong, but mentally strong too. And a 1-2 pitch. Davila gives up a base knock, and Isbell hustling to third. Oh, he's coming home. Get him. Tag him. Got him. And Isbell got greedy there, trying to, take one simple, base, and he tried to get 2 there. And that is, I assume, out number 3. Hopefully Pareda made the tag. I mean, we haven't been very good at throws at home today, but you have to assume that was a couple feet ahead, and hopefully we're good to go here. Looks like call is confirmed. And let's see who's up next year. We need one of those Soto Mojo Mariner rallies. Let's go, Mariner Moose. We need you desperately here. Next up, 0 for 3, left fielder Randy Arozarena. Batting second, 1 for 3, shortstop J.P. Crawford. Batting third, 1 for 3 with 2K, second baseman Cole Young. Trident's up. Let's go, Mariners. We need a fucking epic meltdown here. Gained another sub since the last commercial break. But I never really get depressed, with the Mariners like some people do. Again, obviously I do this full time, and I always look, for the next game as the next opportunity to shine. And obviously when things are going bad, it's easy to be negative and have, things get worse and worse. But with 162 games, there's always another day. There's always another game to prove yourself. And, if you have that type of outlook, not only in life, but, in baseball, there's an opportunity to be able to, see what you can do against a really good team in the Atlanta Braves coming up next. And, did this series go the way that we wanted with 2, losses by a run where we could have won both of those games if we, play a little bit better and, fix those mental mistakes? Yeah, but this is really the only game that kind of got away from us. And the other 2, we should have won, but 1-1 pitch, low and away. 2 balls and 1 strike to Randy Arozarena. 2-1 pitch, big swing and a miss there by Randy. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Lynch to Arozarena. Bottom of the 9th, we're down by 3 runs. Can we get a little bit of a mini miracle? We need it. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. 2-2 pitch popped up. And that goes into the crowd. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Randy Arozarena. And sometimes games that we think that we're going to win, we lose. And sometimes those series where we think we're going to get our ass kicked, we win. So, I'm really looking forward to the Brave series to show them what we got. And hopefully we don't have to have too much left-handed pitching. I know hopefully, Cal is back in the lineup because not having Donovan and Cal is just too much, man. Having to rely on all of these other fill-in guys, it's just, we need to have our best players available. 2-2 pitch. And that is strike 3 looking. Down goes Randy, and that is 1 away. And again, if we're going to have extended injuries to certain guys, then fucking call up Colt Emerson already, damn it. Call up Cade Anderson. Throw him in the pen to help us out. Call up Colt Emerson for another option, It's like, who cares if it's J.P. Crawford's last year? We're not entitled to let him play every game until the year is up. First pitch, takes a strike looking, high and away, 0-1 count. JP is more likable than Randy, but again, it really comes down to performance. How reliable of a hitter and defender are you? And not really that reliable in either category lately. Little ground ball there by JP, and that is 2 away. All right, we're 1 out away. And obviously, at this point, it might be even hard enough to get a hit, let alone just 1 run to get it to 4-2. But one of my favorite players on the squad, last opportunity here for our guy, Cole Clutch Young. First pitch to Young, takes a strike looking, high and away, 0-1 count. We'll play better against the Braves. But again, missing Donnie, we haven't been the same team since he had the injury. It's one thing to miss Brandon Donovan for like a game or 2, early in the season, but to lose him for like 5, 10, 15 games is just, it's too much for us to recover from, especially when he was pretty much our best hitter, while he was playing for us. It's like, imagine, having Ichiro and then not having Ichiro. That's essentially what's happening. 1-1 pitch fouled off right down the middle. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Cole Young. 1-2 pitch. And Young strikes out, throw to first. And that is out number 3. Brutal, man. Game 1 and game 2, kind of different scenarios. Brian Wu and Jose Ferrer fucking up that game. Yesterday's game, Mooney, Julio, and Randy fucking up that game. And today, Castillo, great for the first 3 innings with 4 Ks, but then him having a meltdown in the 4th, and that's all she wrote. And again, we're going to be better. We're going to have to go through these peaks and valleys, but it never feels good to get swept by anybody. Final score, Royals 4, Mariners 1. Let's go over the stats here real quick before we end up exiting. And again, we have a heat wave here in Oregon, 90 degrees, so I'm ready to take this hoodie off, even though I got a fan blowing on me here. All right, Michael Garcia, 1 for 5. Bobby Witt Jr., 1 for 5 with a run. Vinny Pasquantino, 2 for 5 with a run. Salvador Perez, 0 for 3 with a run. Carter Jensen, 0 for 2. Jack Caglione, 0 for 3. Isaac Collins, 2 for 2. Michael Massey, 0 for 4. And Kyle Isbell, 2 for 3. And then let's go with the Mariners here. Rob Refsnyder, 0 for 3. Julio Rodriguez 1 for 4. Josh Naylor 1 for 4. Randy 0 for 4. JP Crawford 1 for 4. Cole Young 1 for 4. Connor Joe 0 for 2. Johnny Pareda 0 for 3. And Leo Rivas 0 for 2. And again, tough to be able to win when you got Joe, Pareda, and Rivas in the 7, 8, 9. And then again, as far as Luis Castillo, 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 Ks, 101 pitches, 62 strikes. And then on the flip side for Chris Bubik, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 7 Ks, 94 pitches, 63 strikes with a 3.32 ERA. So, Castillo was good for 3 innings, but then had one meltdown inning where he gave up 3, and that was it. You can't win scoring only fucking 1 run. And again, hopefully things will be a little bit better as we play the Braves starting tomorrow. So I'll be here. I'm ready. I'm going to stay positive. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Stay cool. If you're in Oregon or Washington, the heat wave is real. And again, we're going to bounce back against the Braves. Final score, Royals 4, Mariners 1. And I got one question for you. Who you talking sports with us? You know who it is. Who is the best? It's us, the NWSF. Who talks sports like us? The Northwest Sports Fanatics. Tridents up, and I am out. Go Mariners. Tridents up.